Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Chasing Labels. Today it is spine number 154 or episode number 154, depending on how you want to look at it. But yeah, we are back here once again for another episode. It is currently December 9th, and I'll probably say this a bunch of times during the episode, or probably now and then however many times I remember. This will be the last episode of the calendar year for Chasing Labels, and we will be reconvening when the new year approaches, 2025, whatever the first Monday is during that calendar. I think it's the 6th. I think it's the 6th of January. Don't quote me on that. But we will be back then to, resume episodes. So that will be when Chasing Labels episode number 155 will be meeting for the live stream and for the recording and stuff like that. But next week we will be having the unwatched pile for December. So next Monday, Steven and I will be getting back together, reconvening, and reuniting for unwatched pile. We don't really have a specific theme for it yet, or may not have one at all. We may just be doing whatever is on our unwatched stacks of movies, picking something from there, and then doing what we do with it, pairing it up with something else in our collection and going from there. So that's kind of what will be happening with Chasing Labels for the next little while. This will be the final episode of the calendar year, and then we will be having an unwatched pile next Monday, and then I will be starting off a new episode in the new year. But Steven and I also will be getting together once again to do our favorite releases of the year as well. Something we did every year on Chasing Labels regularly. So we will be doing that here once again. So a lot of things going on here. But before we jump into what we usually go into on here, first off, I am your host, Andrew. And here on Chasing Labels, we get into some of the recent releases in the boutique world of home media, home video specifically, stuff that I want to add to my collection or that looks interesting to me and may look interesting to you. We cover a good, widespread, diverse group of stuff here, which we will be doing very, very soon. But recently was, of course, Black Friday sales were happening, Cyber Monday, Cyber Week, Black Friday week, whatever sales were going on in the world of home movies. I partook in a bit of it myself. So I want to get into a few of the things I picked up. First up here, not really kind of a Cyber Black Friday type of deal going on here. For those of you who were here last time, and for those of you listening on the audio, you will probably also remember as well, I got the Studio Canal limited edition of The Conversation. I was able to pick up this from our good friends over at Orbit DVD that just happened to have one magical one left in stock. I didn't realize that it had sold out pretty much everywhere and was already going for collector's prices on the aftermarket. So I had mentioned at the time that I got this that I was so impressed with this release that I had to get the other Francis Ford Coppola Studio Canal limited edition release, and this is of The Outsiders. So I got The Outsiders, and this is a movie that I've been a big fan of for a very, very long time. I read the book a couple of times when I was in school, definitely in middle school, probably in high school as well, I think. It's something that you probably have come across many times in your life. It's written by S.E. Hinton, and this is an adaptation of that novel here. And I thought Coppola did an extraordinary job with that. I think this is one of Coppola's most underrated movies, in my opinion. I know that his 1980s filmography doesn't get a lot of love because his 70s filmography was so good. Godfather, Part 1 and 2, The Conversation, like I just showed off, Apocalypse Now. And of course, he also wrote the screenplay for Patton, which I think won him an Oscar. So yeah, you can understand why the 1980s are viewed as a step down. But for me, he did some really good films in the 80s, Coppola did. Not only with The Outsiders, but Rumblefish, which is another adaptation of an S.E. Hinton novel. I'm a big fan of this. So this is a beautiful release here, different than The Conversation. The Conversation had like a magnetic clasp that opened and closed it. This just slides out and you get a digipack packaging here, where you've got uh, images on the front and on the back, and then it folds out into a kind of a little digipack packaging, folds out like an accordion, like the old school ways. I don't think I can fit this in the camera. I'll be honest with you guys. Let's see. Hold on. There's stuff that's gonna go flying here. So for those of you listening at home, it folds out like an accordion, like so. Um, and there's like 5 discs, including the CD soundtrack, and including this little button here that says "Stay Gold." Which, if you've seen the movie or read the book, you know what I'm saying. So that's something I've been wanting to add to my collection for a few years. I think this came out. Oh, gee, I think this came out in 2021. So it's something I've wanted for a long, long time. If you are longtime listeners or longtime fans here of Chasing Labels, we had James McCoskey as a guest here on the show once upon a time, and he works for American Zoetrope, which of course is Coppola's company, and he kind of, I think, is in charge of like archiving and restoration of the stuff that they have in their archives, which of course include Coppola's films. And so I wanted to make sure to show that off a little bit. And of course, I did a few other things as well. I went back to the Criterion sale to get some things that had been wanting to get. Let me see, things that I hadn't mentioned before that my store didn't have. I had to end up ordering from BarnesandNoble.com. Like, for example, the 4K UHD of The Long Good Friday, the film starring Bob Hoskins, directed by John McKenzie. There is an Arrow release of this, and I'm pretty sure many of you are aware of the Arrow release, and many of you probably have the Arrow release of The Long Good Friday. The only major difference, I believe, between the two is that the Arrow release had, I think, an interview with Bob Hoskins on some type of show, but this has a documentary on it that the Arrow release does not have. So I wanted to, I think, yeah, it's called An Accidental Studio from 2019, a documentary about the early years of handmade films. That is not on the Arrow release. At least I don't believe so. So that's why I chose to get this one instead of the Arrow release. And when it comes to some of the things I got here, one of my highest priorities was this Paper Moon, Peter Bogdanovich's Paper Moon. What an astonishing film. I had waited many, many years for this to come out. I believe it had come out overseas in Region B land and things like that. But I was waiting for a Region A release, and we finally got it here in this 4K UHD release from Criterion. It's starring Ryan O'Neal and Tatum O'Neal. I believe Tatum O'Neal won an Oscar for this film at a very, very young age. Next is a William Wyler film starring Barbara Streisand and Omar Sharif. And it's Funny Girl. Funny Girl, for another 4K UHD release, a recent release. I think this came out while the sale was going on. I'm a big fan of William Wyler, and to be honest, I think Barbara Streisand is one of the most talented people of our lifetimes. I don't know if you guys listening are big fans of Barbara Streisand, a multi-talented individual, singing, acting, directing, all kinds of things. And I'm just incredibly impressed by the more of the back catalog of her work that I get to see. But this is a later William Wyler film from 1968. This may have been his second to last film. I want to say maybe his second to last film. And next is the film heaped in controversy from its very opening of when it came out way back in 1998, and that is Happiness. This is the film directed by Todd Solondz. Very controversial for many, many reasons. Dark film, incredibly dark. Some would say darkly comedic. You can view it as that, but just dark in general. And that's the area in which Todd Solondz has really been throughout his entire career. Think he's in the same kind of field of directors as Harmony Korine, Greg Araki, Larry Clark, Todd Solondz. They're all in kind of that same dark, pushing the boundaries realm. And this film pushes the boundaries and then goes beyond them. When this was announced by Criterion, I was shocked. I thought this was going to be a Severin release. I thought this may have been a Vinegar Syndrome release. I believe I said that when this was announced, and we talked about it here on Chasing Labels. So that is the 4K UHD release of Happiness. And then here is some produced by Val Luton goodness with I Walked with the Zombie, directed by Jacques Tourneur, and The Seventh Victim, directed by Mark Robson. And these are two films produced by Val Luton, I believe at RKO. Excuse me. Back in the day, basically back in the 1940s, RKO wanted to jump on the whole horror trend that was happening and hired Val Luton to produce a bunch of movies. We got Cat People and the second Cat, The Return of Cat People, and we've got I Walk with the Zombie, The Seventh Victim. Also, was it Isle of Dead? Yeah, yeah, there's a bunch of Val Luton produced films from RKO back in the day. I've got to get the rest of them. But this is the 4K UHD release of I Walked with the Zombie and The Seventh Victim. I think these are the last two Val Luton films that weren't in HD. So I think all of the Val Luton produced films are in HD, at least the ones he did for RKO. I believe it was RKO. I could be talking out of turn. But anywho, speaking of something that is an homage to the old monster films, the Shape of Water, the Guillermo del Toro film, the 4K UHD release of that. I mentioned this before that Guillermo del Toro and Criterion have quite a relationship going on. I mentioned last time that they're re-releasing Kronos in 4K UHD. I mentioned how it has that great special feature of the Bleak House, which is, essentially Guillermo del Toro's studio. And you see all of like the creature statues and posters and books and concept art designs and everything he's got in his little house of horrors there. And what came out of his mind in that little house of horrors was The Shape of Water, which ended up winning Best Picture. You do not see films like this winning Best Picture all that often. A film that is both an homage to Creature from the Black Lagoon as well as a Douglas Sirk melodrama, like a romantic melodrama as well. A beautiful film, in my opinion. I really love this movie. I love his homage to all of the things that he loves about cinema. So that was that from the Criterion sale. I actually have two more films coming that are in the mail. They were supposed to arrive today, and they did not. It was Dance Girl Dance was one of them, and I've got to check out what the other one was. I can't remember. Unfortunately, they did not arrive today. But what are you going to do when it comes to shipping, especially this time of year? Shipping can range from uh, being on time to not being on time, unfortunately. And I've noticed that a lot, especially this year with the Black Friday sales. I'm very patient when it comes to those things because you just never know how much pressure these people are under who are fulfilling these orders. Yeah, so I got the Heroic Trio / the Executioners, the Johnny Toe double feature that Criterion put out in 4K UHD. The reason why I wanted that is because Johnny Toe did a Criterion Closet video recently, and it was a great video. If you haven't seen that, check that out. Yeah, he's become one of my favorite discoveries of a director over the last couple of years here on Chasing Labels. Let me put that there so that it doesn't slide. But yeah, those are the major things that I've picked up. I'm pretty sure many of you probably have partaken in various sales when it comes to Severin or Vinegar Syndrome. I did Vinegar Syndrome, and I'm just of course waiting on that. That's probably going to take about a month to come in, but we do have some comments here already. Evening from Jeff. Jeff says evening. Hello, Jeff. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for watching once again. One of our regulars here on Chasing Labels. He also said, got my copy of Eastern Condors in the mail, Sammo Hung in the Criterion Collection. Never would have thought it possible. I just mentioned Happiness. I never thought Happiness would be in the Criterion Collection, but here we are. Happiness and Gummo in back-to-back months. Wild stuff. Harmony Korine and Happiness. Well, Todd Solondz, I believe, was already in the Criterion Collection, but Harmony Korine, I don't believe was. We have John Waters in there. Speaking of which, I have my trusty copy of Pink Flamingos on Blu-ray, which I have next to me at all times for moral support. For those of you listening at home, it's one of my favorite releases, and I hold it up from time to time. Coincidentally, I need to put it in my John Waters collection or section of my collection, but I want to kind of always have it near me. Speaking of John Waters, I did pick up another one of his films on Blu-ray, and that is Serial Mom. So Serial Mom, I've had it on snapper case DVD in my collection for the longest time, and I've been wanting to upgrade it to the Blu-ray that came out in 2017, and I finally did. And the reason why I waited so long is because to find this in good condition with the slipcover is rather expensive, especially on eBay, which is where I found this. I was lucky to find it for a decent price. I really like this film a lot. It's probably outside of Hairspray, it's one of his more not straight laced, but it's easier to digest than some of his other films, I will say. Even something like Crybaby, which is a musical, as well as Hairspray. Interesting. But even something like Crybaby may be a bit too much for people. But Serial Mom is such a satire, such a spoof, and it very much leans into that. So that's why I feel like it could be a little bit more digestible for people. But this stars, oh goodness, this stars Sam Waterston. It stars Ricky Lake. It stars Kathleen Turner. Um, also, Matthew Lillard is in the film as well, playing the son character. And it's about this suburban kind of Leave It to Beaver family, which just happens to have a mom who decides to become a serial killer. And it's kind of making fun of that whole idea where, you know, this kind of white picket fence suburbia is not what it all is made to look like. I like films that kind of peel back the layers and the facade of things that we kind of assume are perfect. And that's kind of what John Waters does with this film here. Another film that I picked up is the movie Shotgun Stories. Now, Shotgun Stories is Jeff Nichols' first film. Jeff Nichols, who did the movie Take Shelter, he did the movie, oh goodness, was it Midnight Special? He did, of course, the movie Mud with Matthew McConaughey. This is his first film, and this was produced by David Gordon Green. And I haven't seen this movie in such a long time. I believe it's the first time it's ever been available on Blu-ray, and it's really good. It's really good. I haven't seen it in a few years, but it stars Michael Shannon, who's collaborated with Jeff Nichols on many a film. Yeah, Jeff Nichols did the movie Loving as well, which I thought was super underrated. He's only directed about 9 movies. And of course, he did this year's Bike Riders. Bike Riders, which I still have to add to my collection, but for some reason, that 4K UHD of Bike Riders is so expensive. It just doesn't come down in price. It doesn't move in price. So I'm waiting to get that. But yeah, I dove into a bunch of stuff here. I have a lot more things to get into, but we're already like nearly 20 minutes in. We've got to get into what we've got to get into here on Chasing Labels because there was quite an avalanche of stuff. But before we do that, let me get into the rest of the comments. Our friend Josie is here as well. Josie DeMarco. Hello, Andrew. I just finished reading The Angel Tree by Daphne Benedict Scrab. Wonderful little holiday read. Nice. Glad to see you reading. I just finished, actually brought it here purposely. I just finished reading The Talented Mr. Ripley, the Patricia Highsmith book. The one that is the first book in her Ripley series. And of course, it was made into a movie starring Jude Law and Matt Damon, as well as Gwyneth Paltrow, which I think came out 1999. I think it came out in 1999. And I saw the movie years ago and remember liking it a lot. The book and the movie are very close. It is a very close adaptation of the book. And it's a very good adaptation of the book. So I just finished reading this probably about 2 days ago or so. And yeah, I've had this in my collection for a little while. I think a friend gave this to me that he picked up a copy at a thrift store and kind of just given it to me. I was like, hey, I'll take any free book I can get. I'll take at this point in my life. So that is The Talented Mr. Ripley. And also there was a Ripley series that just came out on Netflix this year. So I wanted to read the book in order for me to watch that as well, starring Andrew Scott, who's a great actor. But Josie also says new watches since last time. Pale Rider from 1985. I believe that's the Clint Eastwood film. The Hot Pickers or Green Gold from 1964. Above the Law from 1988. And West End Soda from 1965. Nice. Glad to see you watching some new stuff. But yeah, let's get into what we do here on Chasing Labels. Let's get into some of these recent release announcements, and I think I will start with Warner Archive. Warner Archive had a slate that just dropped 3 days ago. I think it was Friday, and it is an interesting slate with one really important release for me personally, and another one that is fascinating that I didn't even think of getting a Blu-ray release at this point. So what we've got here are a couple of films. Let's go through these releases. Last Stand at Saber River from 1997, Cheyenne the Complete Series, which is a TV series, Just Friends from 2005. That's the one I didn't think would get a Blu-ray release from here. Gabriel Over the White House from 1933, Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossible, the Complete Series from 1966 to 1967, Daffy Duck's Quackbusters from 1988, and Tom and Jerry, the Complete CinemaScope Collection. That's the one that intrigues me the most because we have not had any Tom and Jerry on Blu-ray in a very long time. A very long. I think the last time was one Blu-ray volume that was put out by MGM forever ago. But let's get into these releases here because I did get to see a few of them. We'll concentrate obviously on the movies. The TV shows is something I'm not too familiar with. But I'm super happy that we're getting back catalog TV series on Blu-ray in 2024 from somebody somewhere. Recently, we did get the I Love Lucy complete series set put out by Paramount, which they absolutely botched the transfer of that using AI and leaving AI elements within it. We've seen many of people have shared and seen the screen caps of the abomination that is within a few of the scenes in that transfer. Just lazy, really just lazy. And I wanted to bring it up last time, but I didn't. I and I'll just briefly mention it now because we're talking a little bit about TV. How you can leave in AI elements without going back to check on these things is so lazy and just shows a lack of effort and lack of respect to the material. It really does by Paramount. It really, really does. But hopefully Warner Brothers does not do the same thing here with some of these series. So, but first up here is The Last Stand at Saber River. Now, this is a 1997 TV movie. Another interesting little quirk. TV movies are starting to get some love when it comes to the boutique world of Blu-ray releases. I know Kino's put out a couple of them, which is very interesting to me because you don't see a lot of love for those types of movies. They were typically made on the cheap, and they were made to just be shown on TV. TV was not considered a prestige format for exhibiting movies the way it is now, or exhibiting the just material in general. The world of TV and movies now is so blurred when it comes to production budget and quality of acting and product that you can almost not tell the difference. A lot of that is because of premium cable, HBO, Showtime, things like that. A lot of it is because streaming has become the way it is now with big budgeted streaming shows, things you see on Netflix, things you see on Hulu, things you see on Paramount Plus, things you see on Peacock, things you see on Amazon Prime. In fact, Amazon's got more money than anybody. Apple TV is another thing, Apple TV Plus. They put so much money into their productions on there that their stuff looks amazing. The only issue with a lot of the streamers, particularly Apple and Netflix, they don't promote their stuff very well. So it's like they pump all this money into the production of these things, and they don't promote it so that people know that it's available to watch. Fascinating to me. Fascinating to me that happens. But Last Stand at Saber River, starring Tom Selleck. This is based off of the novel by Elmore Leonard, who his novel got turned into the movie Get Shorty. His novel got turned into the movie Jackie Brown, as well as I believe TV series and things like that as well. His name has been linked to many things I'm pretty sure many of you are familiar with. So let's get into the synopsis here. Used to be nobody gave two nickels about me. Ex-Confederate Paul Cable observes. Cable liked it that way. Now the would-be homesteader is drawing too much notice and far too many bullets. Tom Selleck rides into a Western adventure in grand grease style as Cable in Last Stand at Saber River from the novel by Elmore Leonard. With his strong-willed pioneer wife, who's portrayed by Susie Amos, and two children, one being Haley Joel Osment, a very young Haley Joel Osment, and this was before he was in The Sixth Sense, so younger than that, and he's really good in this movie. He's really, really good. Cable returns to his Arizona home to resume a quiet life. Instead, he finds Union sympathizers David and Keith Carradine have taken possession of the small spread. The war would be over, but Cable faces one more battle before the healing can begin. So basically, what you have here is a veteran of the Confederate Army who is towards the tail end of the war. He's left the army. I think he got like discharged or whatever, and he just wants to go home after several years of not being with his family, and he wants to resume his quiet life away from war as far as you can get, and doesn't want to deal with that anymore. He's kind of traumatized by it, and he also needs to kind of reestablish his relationship with his family because he has young children that he's never really had a relationship with. He's had one child that's passed away. He's estranged from his wife. So you get all of these kind of familial types of elements that need to be established, personal elements, existential elements. But of course, you just can't escape certain things in life, I guess. And he comes up against this gang of guys who are Union sympathizers, who are still fighting kind of fighting the war. And there's also people who are around him who are Confederate sympathizers as well, who are also fighting the war. The war isn't over to them, but it's over to him. And he's got to deal with all of that stuff. And it gets complicated. Keith and David Carradine are the villains of the movie. They're very good to see on screen. Tom Selleck is very good in the movie. I really liked it for what it is. For this 1997 TV movie, I thought it was rather entertaining. And you throw in the Western vibe, I really liked it. I really liked it. So that is Last Stand at Saber River. Cheyenne, the complete series, I don't know much about, but we'll skip over TV series for right now. Um, there's no special features for Last Stand at Saber River, unfortunately. Um, I can say the Cheyenne, the complete series, a 30 disc Blu-ray set, 107 episodes, all restored in 4K. That's impressive as heck. Next is Just Friends. For my generation, Just Friends is a movie so many of us watched many, many times. This movie stars Ryan Reynolds back in 2005. Who else is in the movie? It's Ryan Reynolds. It's Chris Klein. Um, no, let me just. Amy Smart is in the movie. This was done at the time where you saw a lot of like sophomore comedies. This would have been before. This would have been around the era of Knocked Up, 40-Year-Old Virgin, things like that. So Just Friends in high school. Chris Brander, Ryan Reynolds, was a shy, overweight teen with a crush on the beautiful Jennifer Palomino, who was portrayed by Amy Smart. Unfortunately, Jamie thought of the good-natured Chris as just a friend. Fast forward 10 years, Chris is a suave, fit, and successful music executive, visiting home and looking for a little payback. Love has other plans for him, though, as he attempts to woo Jamie once again, while all the while trying to distract the Disney pop diva client, who was portrayed by Anna Faris. And who no, he was in tow and a rival suitor, Chris Klein. That, that's not really good way to put that, but whatever, we'll put that. So Chris Klein is trying to woo the Amy Smart character as well, and he's like a former kid from high school as well, who was in similar types of grounds as the Ryan Reynolds character. Uh, a geeky loser type of kid who was, a social outcast, but the pretty girl in school liked him and they were friends. That's kind of that's the movie. Now he's grown up and he's handsome, hunky Ryan Reynolds, and he's trying to show her that, hey, look at me now, look what you missed out on, and all that kind of stuff. I've had this movie on DVD in my collection for the longest time. I'm looking over at my DVD comedy section to see if I still have it. I don't think I do. I may have traded it in years ago. Um, yeah, looks like I did. Yeah, it looks like I did. And if I do have it, it's someplace else. Maybe it's over there with my other DVDs, but I thought that this had a Blu-ray release already. So when I saw Warner Archive put this out, I was very confused. But apparently, this movie has never had a Blu-ray release at all. This is also a holiday film. It takes place around Christmas time. So Ryan Reynolds' character comes home for Christmas and meets his and like reunites with his mom and meets his old buddies and all this kind of stuff. I remember watching this movie back in '05. I must have been like 18 years old when this movie came out, around 18, 17, 18. So it was right in that wheelhouse where I was still watching, teenage angsty, well, not even teenage angst, but like sophomore comedies, if you will. So this has a few special features with a blooper reel, deleted scenes, alternate ending, 9 behind the scenes featurettes, Jamie Smiles music video, feature length commentary with the filmmakers, original theatrical trailer. Who directed Just Friends? Let me see. Roger Cumble. I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. But this was done also, I think, around the time of like Old School and when Ryan Reynolds did Van Wilder, that type of comedy. So if you've seen Ryan Reynolds do comedy, you've kind of seen all of his comedies. That's the one knock with Ryan Reynolds. I'm very neutral on him. I've seen him actually do really good dramatic work. And people don't talk about that enough because he doesn't do a lot of it now. Right now, he's doing his Deadpool movies, he's doing his action films, he's doing his action comedies, and he's in his wheelhouse. That's his wheelhouse right now. But let's move on from there. These are coming out January 28th for anybody keeping track at home. We have Gabriel Over the White House. Now, we went from 2005 back to 1933, so we're going back in time. Gabriel Over the White House is a film directed by Gregory LaCava. Gregory LaCava directed the film My Man Godfrey, the one with William Powell and Carol Lombard. That is literally one of my favorite movies ever. Probably top 25 favorite movies ever. There's a Criterion DVD, there's a Criterion Blu-ray of that. It is an astonishingly amazing movie. I've seen it so many times. I can't recommend that movie enough to people. So when I saw Gregory LaCava had directed this film, I had to watch it. And it is very good. It's very interesting. It's rather contemporary too. I'll tell you why in a second. So, as America despairs during the early days of the Great Depression, Hollywood met the challenge with chorus girls, gangsters, romances, a few dramas of social realism, and this one-of-a-kind, thoroughly astonishing fantasy. Gabriel Over the White House. Walter Houston gives a bravura performance starring as a corrupt U.S. president who has a brush with an angel after a near-fatal car crash and awakens determined to right all of America's wrongs now or by any means possible. Um, that is the movie. So what you get here is a movie very much about social commentary, very much about politics, and it's steeped within the Great Depression. Coming out in 1933, the Great Depression has raged for about 4 years to that point, and people are in despair all over the country. And obviously, 1933 would be a changing year in the United States history at that point, and really a changing history, a changing point in history throughout our entire existence, really. That would be the year that FDR would be an, elected, and of course, he would introduce his New Deal, which would get the country moving out of the Great Depression. And then, of course, World War II would happen, which would get the country definitely out of the Great Depression, if you know what I'm saying. And so this movie is an interesting kind of social commentary on that because it happens right around the time of the FDR presidency. So what you have here is a corrupt president who doesn't really want to do anything about the Great Depression that's going on, about people suffering. He's very standoffish, which is many of the reasons why the United States descended into a Great Depression, was this idea that of laissez-faire economics, of government and hanging back, not getting involved in things when it comes to the economy, when it comes to the stock market, and just letting it kind of run wild. And what ended up happening is the stock market crashes in 1929, pretty hefty, and for the first time, not for the first time ever, but it crashes for the worst of it, up to that point in the U.S. history. And this movie is kind of commenting on that. And what ends up happening is this president, portrayed by Walter Houston, gets in a car accident and goes into a coma and has this kind of epiphany moment. And he wakes up and he's a changed man, and he decides that he's going to be proactive now. He's going to listen to people. He's going to listen to reporters that are telling him what's going on. He's going to listen to activists that are protesting in the streets about the conditions of the working class and all this kind of stuff, and he's going to do something about it. The issue I have with the movie is that he kind of goes overboard with it. He kind of goes a little, it goes into a little bit of a tyrant territory. He goes into a little bit of a totalitarian type of situation. So the movie is kind of playing both sides of the argument here, where you need to have some type of government involvement to fix bad things that are going on, but you can't go too far, or else bad things can happen on that end. So the movie is interesting, balanced in that regard. I really enjoyed this movie a lot. Like I said, it's very current when it comes to politics. It's very current when it comes to social themes and things like that. Really good film. Really, really good film. Excuse me. So next we have Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles complete series. Yes, thank you, Jeff. Before I move on with Warner Archive, Jess says Reynolds is great in Buried. When I just mentioned him being in good and dramatic films, Buried comes to mind immediately. That was exactly what I was thinking of. It's a movie I don't think enough people have seen because it's, for the lack of a pun here, it's buried amongst a lot of the comedies he did in and around that movie. If you want to check out a good Ryan Reynolds performance, watch that movie. Watch that movie. But back to Warner Archive here. Warner Archive is putting out Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles, the complete series. That's an animated series. When did this come out? From 1966. I like how they're going back and doing that. That's awesome. It's a two disc set, all 18 episodes restored in 4K. That's pretty awesome. Then we have Daffy Duck's Quackbusters. This is a 1988 compilation movie with new scenes they made to kind of create this narrative. So basically, Daffy Duck has started up this paranormal investigative office, and he did it. He's doing it because I don't because he's Daffy Duck, really, but he's doing it because he inherited all of this money from this guy that he made laugh, who said that if anybody was going to make him laugh before he died, he would basically leave them a bunch of money. So Daffy Duck shows up and wants to make this money, and he ends up making this person laugh to death. And he inherits all of his money. He decides to invest it in this paranormal investigative agency that he set up, basically to kind of make money through suckers, because he doesn't think that these things exist, like ghosts and ghouls and vampires and stuff like that. So what happens is we have these bridging sequences of Daffy Duck interacting with like Porky Pig and Bugs Bunny, but they intercut classic Looney Tunes shorts to structure the story on. Like he'll send Daffy Duck Daffy Duck will send Bugs Bunny to go investigate something, and it'll be a classic short that many of us have probably seen. I've seen all these shorts before many, many times. But I'm glad they're putting more Looney Tunes on Blu-ray. Put all the Looney Tunes on Blu-ray at this point. We've got those choice collections that they've already put out 4 volumes of. The 4th volume just came out. I still need to get volume 3 and volume 4. We've got, there's the Platinum collection that are 2 and 3 are still in print, or at least you can find them. No, 1 and 3 are still in print of the Platinum collections on Blu-ray. 2 to find on Blu-ray with a slipcover, you have to sell your car to get it. It is absurdly overpriced. I don't know why. I don't know why that specific set is overpriced. But we've had a lot of Looney Tunes come out on DVD in the past with like the Golden collections and Showcase collections. All of these things. I've just been doing a lot of research when it comes to things, comes to physical media for Looney Tunes. The reason being is the way in which HBO is doing their Max streaming service now is they're taking things off left and right. They're taking Looney Tunes shorts off left and right. So I've reached the point where I had already planned to buy a lot of these on DVD and on Blu-ray. So I'm just going to fully commit to doing that now. You can't trust the streaming game anymore. As much as I rely on it here for chasing labels to watch some of the stuff we discuss here, and as much as I enjoy when it comes to access to new movies, access to old movies, it's so unreliable in terms of having an accessible catalog now in many regards. So I'm just reaching the point where I've got to get things in my collection to have and watch whenever I want. So um, there's 7 modern era Looney Tunes shorts in here. There's Duck Dodgers and the Return of the 24th and a half century, The Duxorcist, Little Go Peep, Night of the Living Duck, Superior Duck, Blooper Bunny, Invasion of the Bunny Snatchers. Those are all extras here on this release, which is Daffy Duck's Quackbusters, playing on, Ghostbusters. That's kind of what it is. But next up here, which I think is maybe the crown jewel of this release slate, is the Tom and Jerry Complete CinemaScope Collection. With the rise of TV threatening movie-going, widescreens became Hollywood's way to combat that competition. So, back in the 50s, we had widescreen movies start to be made, start to be exhibited in the movie theaters. We had things like CinemaScope, we had Cinerama, we had all kinds of spectacle stuff that was making people go to the movie theaters. And I guess MGM decided to get in it on their animation level with these theatrical shorts of Tom and Jerry cartoons that were shot in widescreen and exhibited in widescreen. So we've got a collection here of, I think, all 23 of them. I'll just read the rest of it here because I was in the process of it. MGM went all in and placed their bets on the new CinemaScope process. In addition to their feature films, the studio emboldened their cartoon unit run by William Hanna and Joseph Barbera and their Oscar-winning series of Tom and Jerry shorts. The new visual approach to the famous team's animated adventures was artistically refreshing and won sweeping popular success with audiences. This set includes all 23 of these widescreen wonders collected together for the first time on Blu-ray. As originally seen in theaters, also included are Hanna and Barbera's 2 standalone Spike and Tyke cartoons and their Oscar-nominated Goodwill to Men animated short, Anamorphic and Amazing, The Ultimate Chase Continues. This is awesome. I grew up watching Hanna-Barbera cartoons. I grew up watching Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes, all this kind of stuff. So when I was little, to be able to have these at home to watch whenever I want was such a treat. I had a lot of them on VHS, but of course they were just random tapes here and there. To get them in my collection once again on Blu-ray in high def quality is such a treat for me. They don't give any details here on if they're coming from 4K restorations or anything like that. I would assume so, since it is Warner Archive. It's at least 2K or 4K. So that's awesome. And they do give a list of all 23 shorts plus the bonus ones. If you go to Blu-ray.com, you can look those up, but I won't read them all to you. This is coming out February 11th, though. The other things that I mentioned were coming out February 28th. The Tom and Jerry, the Complete CinemaScope Collection is coming out February 11th. Awesome stuff. This will go great with the Looney Tunes things that they've been putting out. This will go great with the Tex Avery stuff they've been putting out. This will go great with the Scooby-Doo stuff they've been putting out and other Hanna-Barbera stuff like Tomcat and Huckleberry Hound. All the good stuff is coming now. Thank you. Finally. I've been waiting years for this stuff. But let's move on from Warner Archive. Let's dive into Kino, because there's quite a few Kino releases and I want to get to them. And of course, I gotta scroll all the way down to where we left off of before, but there's been quite a few interesting develops on the Kino Lorber Studio Classics front, or just Kino Lorber in general. So, starting off here with a film that I have been debating to buy for the longest time, and that is the movie Somewhere in Time, the film starring Christopher Reeve, and Christopher Reeve, Jane Seymour, Christopher Plummer, Teresa Wright. And this is a movie that's been on Blu-ray for many, many years. It's been very cheap too. You can find it for about $10. You can There's been a re-release of it in the last few years with a different cover, I think. But it is getting a 4K UHD release that's coming soon from Kino. Um, by coming soon, I mean I'm assuming next year, hopefully next year. Um, this is the movie, like I said, starring Christopher Reeve. It's got a brand new HDR/DV master from 4K scan of a 35 millimeter original camera negative. And for those of you who haven't seen Somewhere in Time, um, I feel like it's the movie that a lot of people reference to when they talk about his non-Superman films. And and I can understand why it's so different from what you're used to seeing Christopher Reeve in, basically being his Superman work. He did a lot of period pieces, and this movie is a period piece. I've been going through his filmography recently because I didn't see Somewhere in Time until very recently. I didn't see a lot of his other work until very recently, so I'm slowly going through it because I do want to watch the documentary that is, I think, streaming right now on Max, which is Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, and it talks about his life and career. Of course, many of you are probably familiar with with Christopher Reeve and his accident and his paralysis, and then his passing through that and all that kinds of stuff. So I don't have to go over a lot of those things, but Somewhere in Time, young writer Richard Collier is met on the opening night of his first play by an old lady who begs him to come back to me. Mystified, he tries to find out about her and learns that she is a famous stage actress from the early 1900s. Becoming more and more obsessed with her by self hypnosis, he manages to travel back in time where he meets her. So, we've got a time travel movie starring Christopher Reeve, where he is a playwright who goes back in time and has this grand romantic late Victorian era love affair with this woman portrayed by Jane Seymour. And Christopher Plummer is in the film as well. And Christopher Plummer plays, I think, like her like agent or handler or something like that. Another suitor, kind of. He's the one that kind of handles her career and affairs and things like that. But he's also trying to marry her as well. And she's a stage actress. And Christopher Reeve becomes kind of obsessed with her in the present, and to the point where he somehow reads up on a professor who was working on this idea, who being able to go back in time through deep, serious version of hypnosis. Sounds kind of silly, and it kind of is, but you just kind of have to go with it for the movie's sake. And he ends up getting dressed up in early 1920s garb and going back in time and having this affair with this woman, this love romance, torrid love romance with this woman. That's kind of the movie. Um, it's good. It's good. I know a lot of people probably love it for nostalgia's sake. I have no nostalgic ties to it whatsoever, so I'm kind of just looking at it from a film analysis perspective, and I think it's rather good. So we've got that Somewhere in Time. No special features have been announced for it. No date has been announced for it. So who knows when it's coming out? Um, yeah. So let's move on from there. We've got another movie from that time period. Somewhere in Time came out in 1980. This movie comes out in 1978, and this is a 4K UHD release of the Agatha Christie adaptation of Death on the Nile. Death on the Nile. And this movie is directed by John Guillermin, who directed The Towering Inferno. He also directed the 70s King Kong film, the one starring Jessica Lange and Jeff Bridges. And he directed this film here. Of course, this has another one of the many adaptations we've got of Agatha Christie's work. Heck, we're still getting them now. We just got a Death on the Nile adaptation a few years ago, done by Kenneth Branagh, who both directed and starred in the film as Hercule Poirot. So there you go. But this stars Peter Ustinov as Hercule Poirot, and I thought he was fine in it. I really like Murder on the Orient Express by Sidney Lumet. If you've been paying attention to the shorts I've been putting up, I just upgraded my DVD edition to the new 4K UHD put out by Kino. So I just did that. I gave it a rewatch. It looks really, really good in 4K. The movie still holds up, but this came out a few years later, And this is, like I said, directed by John Guillermin, not directed by Sidney Lumet. I rather like it. I rather liked it. Star-studded cast. Star-studded cast. You've got Peter Ustinov, like I said. You've got Mia Farrow's in the movie, Betty Davis, John Finch, George Kennedy, Maggie Smith, Jack Warden, David Niven, and it's a good movie. It's a good adaptation. If you've seen the other adaptations of it, you know the story. Hercule Poirot is on a boat that's taking a riverboat trip down the Nile. And what happens is this young newlywed ends up getting killed, and he's now on the case. He's now on the case and trying to figure out who did it, what are all the connections between these people that are on this boat, and what happened. It's a fun movie. I'm curious to see what it's going to look like on Blu-ray because I watched it streaming on Amazon Prime, and that transfer looked pretty good. But streaming is not the same as a physical disc. They just don't look the same. So I'm curious how better this is going to look. This is also no special features have been announced for it as well. So yeah, I'm excited. That's Death on the Nile 4K UHD from Kino. We got another 4K UHD here that's also coming soon, and that is The Two Jakes. The Two Jakes. This is the sequel to Chinatown. This came out in 1990, so this was 16 years, 17 years or so after Chinatown came out. This is directed by Jack Nicholson and starring Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson has only directed 3 films in his career. He directed Drive, He Said, which is part of the BBS box set from Criterion. I think that's the only way you can get that movie on Blu-ray. It's part of that set there, and he directed Going South, which just got a cinematograph release from the guys over at Vinegar Syndrome. Justin La Liberty, that's his line, his sub-label there, which I did buy during the sale, and it is going to get to me eventually. So I got that coming, and then Jack Nicholson directed The Two Jakes. Now this movie doesn't have the best reputation. This movie doesn't get talked about much. I believe Chinatown does dwarf it in terms of popularity and relative stuff. You know what I'm saying? So let me read the synopsis because I've actually never seen this movie. I've never seen it. Real estate developer Jake Berman hires private investigator and war veteran Jake Giddies, the Jack Nicholson character from Chinatown, for some run-of-the-mill matrimonial work. After Berman shoots his wife's lover, who happens to be his business partner, Giddies is drawn into a web of conspiracy and deceit involving the oil reserves beneath Los Angeles. While investigating, Giddies hears a voice from his past that causes him to revisit a traumatic case in Chinatown. Of course, we all know the famous quote from Chinatown, "Forget it, Jake, it's Chinatown." One of the most iconic lines of any movie you'll ever see. I've always wanted to watch this movie, but I've got to give Chinatown a rewatch because I haven't seen it in probably well over a decade, probably since I bought the Blu-ray, which I think came out many, many moons ago. I know that Chinatown just came out in 4K from Paramount this year. And I know that it sold very, very well to the point where it's sold out everywhere. And I think they had to re-release a standard edition of it, a kind of non-slipcover edition of it. But I do want to try to track down to see if I can get that original 4K release. Good luck to me when it comes to the third-party market on eBay for stuff like that. People go crazy overpricing things when it comes to that. But yeah, I've never seen The Two Jakes. If you have seen it, please let me know if it's as bad or as disappointing as those as people say it is. Let me see. Jeff asks, who wrote The Two Jakes? Let me see. Who wrote The Two Jakes. I don't know who wrote it actually. Was it? I know it's based off of a book. Robert Town. Robert Town. So that's a good writer. That's a really, really good writer. Robert Town was a legendary writer who just passed away this year. Robert Town wrote Chinatown. He wrote Mission Impossible. He wrote The Last Detail. He was a prolific writer. You can learn a lot from reading a Robert Towne script and hearing him talk about the writing process. He also wrote Shampoo. He wrote the Yakuza. He wrote the Parallax View, Cisco Pike, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, Drive. He said, uh, the other Jack Nicholson film, Bonnie and Clyde, The Breaking Point. Well, that was the TV series, not the. No, I'm thinking of the movie put up by Criterion. That's not that. Uh, but he also wrote Heaven Can Wait. Um, yeah, he was a prolific writer. So yeah, he wrote The Two Jakes. Interesting. You've got Jack Nicholson directing, you've got Robert Towne writing, and it's not never been a real favorable movie. Like I've never heard anybody praise it the same way they praise Chinatown. But let's see what we're moving on to next when it comes to Kino. The River Wild. Here we go. So coming on 4K UHD, coming soon. Don't know when. Brand new HDR/DV master. I believe that we're getting a brand new HDR master for the Two Jakes as well. Kino right now is doing a really good job when it comes to their 4Ks, giving them remasters, brand new, or getting the elements from whoever they've got deals with, which is awesome. They're going full tilt really over at Kino. So we've got The River Wild, which stars Meryl Streep, Kevin Bacon, David Strathairn, John C. Reilly's in the movie as well, Benjamin Bratt's in the movie as well, and this is directed by Curtis Hanson. Curtis Hanson, who is probably most well known for directing L.A. Confidential. L.A. Confidential is Steven's favorite movie. We did a whole episode that's on our podcast feed just on LA Confidential. It was back when we were doing Cinema Discovery Project, and we were taking a movie and we were just going beat by beat and breaking it down and talking about it. And we did LA Confidential. I think we did it probably for Film Noir, maybe for Noirvember. I'm not quite sure. If not, we did it. We did it in general. That is a movie that desperately needs a remaster, and I would love a 4K of it. I would just love a re-release of that movie with a new master to it, with a new transfer. We've gotten the same transfer that was put out on the original disc over a decade ago, and they've re-released it for anniversary editions and all kinds of stuff, but it's the same exact disc, same special features. I know Curtis Hanson has passed away, so we couldn't get probably anything regarding him, but there's other people who talk about these movies that we could get special features from. That would be a nice 4K from Kino. I feel like that's in their wheelhouse. I don't know why they haven't done it yet. Maybe it's in the works. But The River Wild is a movie with, like I just mentioned, a great cast. Meryl Streep, David Strathairn are this married couple, and Meryl Streep has this past where she's like a river rafting tour guide, outdoorsy type of person, and David Strathairn is a man who works in like a corporate office. They kind of have different, they live different lives. And what happens is Meryl Streep is taking their young son on this river rafting trip. She's getting back to what she used to do when she was younger, getting back to her old love, her old passions, if you will. And David Strathairn joins her as well. And so it's like a family vacation, if you will. But what happens is they run into Kevin Bacon and John C. Reilly, who are also on this river raft, on the same river area, if you will. And there's something suspicious about them. There's something fishy about these guys, and it gets slowly revealed over time. I won't get into any other, spoilerish details or anything like that, but it's one of those movies where, you're in a secluded area and you run into, to not good people, therefore not good things end up, happening because of it. And what you've got here is Meryl Streep kind of in an action role here, where she's taking command of these rafts and he's going down this river and whatnot. I have to say those sequences of the movie are very well edited, very well done. They're shot like an action film. So I really liked this movie for what it is. It's not a bad way to spend, like a 2-hour time frame or however long this movie was. So yeah, give this movie a watch if you're just wanting to get into like some Meryl Streep, back catalog of stuff she was doing in the 90s. And I don't believe she was nominated for one of these. I know she's been nominated so many times for so many roles. I don't think this was one of them. But that's the River Wild. Let's move on from the River Wild and move on to a double feature here, a 4K double feature, mind you. Let's see. Yes, a 4K double feature. Jeff, let's see. Jeff says Steven must be a huge noir fan. He is actually. He's a big noir guy. LA Confidential is his favorite movie, and LA Confidential, for those of you who have seen it, has so many film noir references in it. It's a movie made in the 90s, but set back in the noir era. And yeah, film noir is something we've bonded over many times here on Chasing Labels when we were doing Cinema Discovery Project, when we're buying movies, when we're talking about movies. We've leaned into film noir elements. I'm a big film noir person, and film noir in general. Heck, we had the czar of noir here on Chasing Labels as a guest about 2 years ago. I believe 2 years ago in I want to say May of 2022, we had Eddie Muller, the czar of noir here on Chasing Labels. One of the highlights of my life, I have to say, not only the highlights of my podcasting career or just talking about movies career, just my life in general. I have Eddie Muller's Dark City book here on my table. It's here by my side all the time. Getting to talk to him, getting to meet him, because I've never been able to go to the TCM Film Festival. I've never been able to go to one of his Noir City screenings. They don't really come this way. They do come to Boston sometimes, but Boston's like an hour or so away from me, so it's a bit of a trek to get there and whatnot. And I've never. It's the closest I've ever been able to get to Turner Classic Movies, and Turner Classic Movies is something that's near and dear to my heart. It's really something that was a gateway to classic cinema. So that's me going on a whole love fest tirade for classic movies and for the czar of noir, Eddie Muller. Coincidentally, I've been wanting to get a lot of his Film Noir Foundation has been responsible for some restorations that have been put out on Blu-ray by Flicker Alley. We talked about that while he was on here, and since then they've released a couple more of them. I really want to get them. I want to say no, it's not. The Eddie Muller episode, Jeff asks, is the Muller episode on YouTube? It is not, because at that time we were not doing the live stream recordings, and we were not doing we were not uploading recordings of the video calls and stuff like that. That is only something we started doing. I want to say 2023 we started doing those, or maybe 2024. Either way, we had not done that at that time. So it is on our podcast feed. So if you go to Apple Podcasts and you go to Chasing Labels, it'll be. I can tell you what episode number it is actually. Let me go and get the episode number, and it'll make it a lot easier for people to track that down. Let me go to, because we do have a Facebook page of Chasing Labels, a film collectors podcast. That is the title of our Facebook group, and we have a list there of, I believe, every guest we've had on Chasing Labels and every interview we've done. Just let me look for Eddie Muller here. Yeah, that was truly one of the highlights. Yeah, Eddie Muller was episode number 51. So episode number 51 would be Eddie Muller, and I think we put that interview at the beginning of that episode. So if you go to Apple Podcasts, if you go to wherever else we have our podcast on, when it's like Spotify or Google and stuff like that, episode number 51 is the Eddie Muller episode. Truly a highlight for me, because I've been a big fan of his for years. We're watching Noir Alley on Sundays and things like that. It's where I've discovered a lot of great classic noir films. Let me move away from here. Let me go back to, where was I? I was talking about Kino. Yes, I was. Well, we've got a spaghetti western double feature. A spaghetti western double feature, and this is a 4K double feature, not just a Blu-ray double feature. We've got Kill Them All and Come Back Alone and the Hellbenders. So let me go to my letterbox here, because both of these movies are directed by different directors, and I believe the Hellbenders is a Sergio Corbucci film, and Sergio Corbucci directed some great spaghetti westerns. He directed Django, and he directed The Great Silence, two immensely fantastic, like non Sergio Leone spaghetti westerns. When you think of spaghetti westerns, you probably think of Sergio Leone, and when you think of non Sergio Leone westerns, you could get into like that B level of movies, and they're not as good, but some are exceptional, exceptional. But Kill Them All and Come Back Alone is directed by Enzo G. Castellari. And I believe this was the this no, I'd seen another one of his films. He directed Cold Eyes of Fear from 1971, and that's the other film of his I had seen. So, Kill Them All and Come Back Alone is this is the synopsis of it. During the American Civil War, a Confederate prisoner, Clyde McKay, attempts to steal a box of gold from a Union prison camp. He is aided by a group of prisoners and a prison guard, but he is double crossed along the way. And this stars Chuck Connors as this character of Clyde McKay, and he's basically hired by a Confederate soldier to go to this, I think this Union prison camp and steal all of their gold that's hidden in this like cache of bullets and gunpowder and stuff like that. And the reason why it's hidden in there is because one, you can hide it. It just looks like it's in crates of bullets and stuff like that. And two, if anybody tries to attack you while you have it, they're gonna blow the money away. So it's a good way to hide it. And 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 of course he is double crossed along the way. Now Chuck Connors is an interesting type of actor. Chuck Connors was in a lot of adventure films like this during the 1950s and 1960s. A bigger, larger than life man. He was like 6'5". Chuck Connors was a very large guy, and he was a pro athlete. He is one of the few people ever to play both professional baseball and professional basketball. He was on, I believe, he was on the Dodgers and he was on the Boston Celtics. And I know this because I'm a big Boston Celtics fan, and I've read about the history of the Boston Celtics so many times. That's what I used to do in my younger days, was just read up and watch documentaries about the history of the Boston Celtics. And yeah, it's so he is kind of an interesting type of person, and he was in a lot of these adventure films, mostly B movies, like B westerns and war films and things like that. But it had a great screen presence, really great screen presence. And this movie is pretty good. This movie's got that style of the spaghetti western with the violence and the grittiness and things like that. So that's why this movie is pretty darn cool. And then we've got the Hellbenders, which, like I said, is done by Sergio Corbucci. And the Hellbenders, I think, is even better. It's even better. So, a Southern colonel, his three sons, and a card shark embark on an odyssey through the Southwest, carrying a coffin full of stolen money with which the colonel plans to revive the Confederacy. This colonel in this spaghetti western from 1967 is portrayed by none other than Joseph Cotton, one of my favorite actors of all time. Joseph Cotton is this just cold ex-Confederate colonel who has just never left the war, can't leave the war. The war is still going on in his mind, and he wants to revive his old like Confederate Union of soldiers with this money that he's carrying around in a coffin. And he has hired this woman to pretend that she's the widow of the body that they have in this coffin in order for them to like carry it this distance. It's a kind of a darkly twisted movie in that regard, very macabre, and dark movie in general, and dark and gritty movie. And Joseph Cotton, I thought, is really, really good in it. The actors who play his sons are also really good in it too. I like this movie a lot. I like this movie more than the other film. Sergio Corbucci, his films from the ones I've seen, The Great Silence and Django, dark, gritty, cold, nihilistic, pessimistic types of films. Not very happy movies. They're not happy movies. They're westerns that are like, you're in the dirt and the grime. It reminds me kind of the way Deadwood was. If you've seen The Hateful Eight with the Quentin Tarantino movie, it, although that movie has the Quentin Tarantino isms that kind of lighten it up a little bit, still a dark movie. Still a dark movie. I'm pretty sure he took a lot from Sergio Corbucci and put it in his movie The Hateful Eight. Quentin Tarantino, no stranger to taking things from the movies and the directors that he loves and putting them in his own films. That's kind of how he's made his career. So that's the Hellbenders, a great double feature. They did already sell these separately on Blu-ray. I'm not sure why they combined it into a double feature 4K set. I kind of wish they had them individually, but whatever. I'm definitely interested in this release in general. Um, yeah, and so it's a 2 disc set. They come on their own disc at least. And excuse me, this is coming out February 4th. Then next we got some 1990s Pierce Brosnan goodness. We've got Dante's Peak from 1997. This is getting a 4K UHD release February 11th. And this is a 2-disc set. The first disc being the 4K UHD disc, the second disc being the Blu-ray disc. And you get the movie on both discs. You get an audio commentary by director Roger Donaldson on both discs. And you get looks like a making of Dante's Peak special feature on both discs as well. I probably saw this movie when I was about 11 years old, maybe 11, 12 years old, Dante's Peak. And I've always had a kind of a soft spot for it. I haven't seen it in so long. I've never owned it on DVD. I've never owned it on Blu-ray. And I only ever saw it when it was playing on like HBO or Showtime or one of those, premium cable channels back in the day. That's the only way I've seen this movie because I I was introduced to Pierce Brosnan when he was in GoldenEye and then Tomorrow Never Dies. So every time I see him now, I always associate him with, being James Bond. Being James Bond and brings me back to that time during my life. So that's Dante's Peak. For those of you who've not seen Dante's Peak, oh man. So it's a disaster film. It's a disaster film where Mount Vesuvius in Washington State erupts and you've got just lava flowing everywhere and people need to escape or die basically. And Pierce Brosnan is a volcanologist, which is a cool title for a scientist. He plays volcanologist Harry Dalton, comes to the sleepy town of Dante's Peak to investigate the recent rumblings of the dormant volcano the burg is named for. Before long, his worst fears are realized when a massive eruption hits, and immediately Harry, the mayor, and the townspeople find themselves fighting for their lives amid a catastrophic nightmare. So, yeah, Linda Hamilton's in the film as well. Who else is in the movie? I'm trying to find some. No, never mind. I was trying to find some recognizable names, but the way they list the cast members on Letterboxd is not easily definable in terms of like who's a main character, who's not a main character, who's a main cast member, who's not a main cast member. So let's move on from Dante's Peak, the 1997 disaster film slash, I guess you could say, action film. So let's move along from there to what else do we got? Play It Again, Sam is getting a Blu-ray release from Kino. Briefly mentioning this, we talked about it last time on episode number 153 because Imprint is putting out a release of this. Once again, Imprint and Kino go back and forth as to releasing the same movie. It just depends on who does it first. It's like they play like international patty cake with one another. They're just like, it's like they're tag you're it, tag I'm it. So once again, we're getting another we're getting another release that Imprint has already announced. Kino is putting out their own version of Play It Again, Sam. The film starring Woody Allen and Diane Keaton, the first time they were on screen together in 1972, based on the Woody Allen play. This is coming out February 11th. Yeah, there's a new commentary here by screenwriter Alan Spencer and author film historian Justin Humphreys. And I'm pretty sure that wasn't announced for the imprint release. But okay, let's move on. On February 11th, we are getting Hot Pursuit, which I've talked about in a previous episode of Chasing Labels. That is the John Cusack film. It's getting a new audio commentary with film historian Joe Ramone. That's the movie where John Cusack gets held behind in school and he can't go on vacation with his girlfriend because he failed some final exam and he's got to make it up. But the professor or the teacher lets him go anyway. So he has to he's like following behind them. Like they've already gone and he's got to go down there. But lo and behold, the family like gets into some type of trouble where I think they get kidnapped and I think John Cusack's got to rescue them. But the journey to get to them has like its pitfalls and whatnot. It's a good like young John Cusack movie from the 80s. Not quite as good as like Say Anything or some of the other ones, but still okay. Still okay. Let's move on from there. We are getting a pair of John Candy films that's getting a release here. Summer Rental, the 1985 comedy starring John Candy. This is coming out February 18th. Brand new HD master. This is only a Blu-ray release. New audio commentary from film historian Joe Ramone. Air Candy, the music of Summer Rental, a new featurette by Max Every. That runs about 10 minutes long. Nice to see we're getting some John Candy stuff on Blu-ray. If I want to see if I think Summer Rental had a Blu-ray before. No, it's not. So this would be a premiere. Yeah, this will be the first time it's ever on Blu-ray. I think I'm thinking of The Great Outdoors. That's gotten a Blu-ray release before. So that's awesome to see some John Candy 80s goodness. What a talented person he was. Let's move on from there. That's the wrong tab. Back to the right tab. I do want to mention we are also getting Uncle Buck is getting a 4K UHD release. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. So Uncle Buck has been out on Blu-ray for many, many years. I think it's been out since 2012 or so. And it was not a good Blu-ray release. I know many of us have it in our collections. I have it in my collection. It's a classic 1989 John Candy film directed by John Hughes. But this has desperately needed some type of remastered re-release for many, many years. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened. I would say so. It came out in 2011. My bad. But yeah, it didn't look very good. The Blu-ray was from an old master, hadn't been remastered, didn't look very good. All of those Blu-rays from that time, most of them from that time in Universal's catalog, 2010, 11, 12, in that realm, need remastered re-releases in some way. We've gotten a few of them. And they look really, really good. Around that time, I give Universal credit for putting those movies out on Blu-ray, but they weren't taking any time and effort to make them look great. They were just kind of putting them on Blu-ray. They did it with a couple of prestige releases where they did put some money and time and effort. For example, the Jaws Blu-ray looked amazing when it came out. The Jaws 4K looks amazing when it came out. But other films like Uncle Buck, like Weird Science that were put out around the same time did not look very good. Even movies like The Dare Hunter didn't look very good. The Sting kind of didn't look very good. They've since gone back and re-released a lot of that stuff that they put out at that time. Even like Apollo 13, they've re-released in 4K UHD and gone back and given it a proper remaster. They woke up and realized they needed to do something. So I'm glad they did. But yeah, Uncle Buck finally getting that treatment, I'm so super happy about. For those of you who haven't seen Uncle Buck, it's a wonderful kind of family comedy from 1989 starring John Candy. is in the movie. A very young Macaulay Culkin. I think is Kieran Culkin in the film as well? I think it's Kieran Culkin. And basically, the parents of these kids have to go. Have to. I believe the mother's parent is sick or something like that, or had a heart attack, and they've got to go right away to take care of the situation to see what's going on. And it's like the middle of the night, and they got to call somebody to watch these young children. So they call the dad's brother, who is Uncle Buck, and he's like the black sheep of the family, if you will. He's the kind of cool uncle who doesn't have any kids. He's not married, doesn't have any responsibilities, doesn't really have quite a steady job. He's that type of uncle, and he brings him in. Oh, thank you, Jeff. Laurie Metcalf is in the film as well. I forgot she plays the neighbor who kind of has the hots for Uncle Buck at one point. And this movie just filled with great humor gags. There's the one where they're celebrating the birthday and he makes the giant pancakes. And then he's talking on the phone with the parents about, how many times do you feed, how many times do you feed a dog that size? And then the mother's like, oh, once a day. And he's like, oh, once a day. He's been feeding him multiple times because he doesn't know how to take care of a dog, let alone take care of children. you know, what a wonderful, wonderful movie. Endlessly rewatchable as well. Um, just a wonderful movie. And for it to get a 4K release, this is long overdue. So we've got a new audio commentary by film historians Alexandra Helen Nicholas and Josh Nelson. Alexandra Helen Nicholas has been here on Chasing Labels before. Awesome to see her every time she shows up on a special feature. New audio commentary by film historian Joe Ramone. And then we've got the Blu-ray disc, so it's a 2-disc set. We've got the Blu-ray disc, which has the movie as well as those 2 commentaries too. And the Blu-ray also has 16 going on 17. New interview with actress Jean Louise Kelly. Yeah, she plays the teenage daughter in that film. And Jean Louise Kelly would go on to later on be in the sitcom Yes Dear. I remember her being in that. And that would be like a decade and a half after that. That was the sitcom starring Mike O'Malley as well. Local guy, Mike O'Malley. He's from Boston. Good actor too. Good actor too. But yeah, Uncle Buck, February 18th, 4K UHD. Pre-order it now if you can. If you're a big fan, I kind of want to do that myself. So we've got some other things here. Speaking of a Universal title that's getting a 4K UHD release, The Coneheads from 1993, another film from my childhood. Kino is tapping into my childhood here. They've been doing that a lot lately, to be honest with you guys. I got it behind me somewhere. I'm trying to see if I can find it. I know where it is actually. They released Kindergarten Cop on 4K UHD this year. That was a nice surprise. That's another Universal release that they got their hands on. They must have a deal with Universal going on because all of these are Universal titles. I believe Coneheads is as well. Coneheads is also, I think, an adaptation of an SNL skit, if I recall. It stars Dan Aykroyd. Let's see, Dan Aykroyd, Jane Curtin, Michelle Burke, Adam Sandler's in the film, Chris Farley, Eddie Griffin, Michael Richards, Phil Hartman, David Spade, Sinbad, Michael McKean, Drew Carey, Jason Alexander, Kevin Nealon, Julia Sweeney, Parker Posey, Garrett Morris. What a star-studded cast this was. Tim Meadows. I'm just reading down the list. Ellen DeGeneres, John Lovitz. Directed by Steve Barron, who directed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Talk about something near and dear to my heart in my childhood. Where's my 4K UHD release of that? Although I heard whispers through the grapevine that that's in the works. Next year would be the 35th anniversary of the release of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie that came out in 1990. So next year it would be prime for a deluxe re-release of that movie. I love that movie so damn much. I've watched it countless times. I watched it incessantly throughout my childhood. So that would be cool if that got a re-release. But Coneheads is another film I watched. Came out in 93. I was 6 years old. Something that I Yeah, I saw a bunch when I was a kid, but I haven't seen it in so long. It's already gotten a Blu-ray release, so many of you probably have it in your collection. But Coneheads is a fun comedy. I think you'd have to probably have been there at the time to kind of truly appreciate it. But a pair of aliens arrive on Earth to prepare for invasion, but crash instead with enormous cone-shaped heads, robot-like walks, and an appetite for toilet paper. Aliens Beldar and Premat don't exactly blend in with the population of Paramus, New Jersey. But for some reason, everyone believes them when they say they're from France. So what happens is they end up crash landing in New Jersey and just try to assimilate into society. And they end up becoming so like liking humans and like being and acting like a human and stuff like that, that they end up like getting regular jobs and having a daughter and and living a family life. And yeah, it's odd, it's weird, but it's so unique and kind of its time. It's a nostalgic thing for me. It's a nostalgic thing for me. Um, so that is Coneheads. Let's see what else we've got here. Oh, I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. I'll Sleep When I'm Dead, the Clive Owen film starring Charlotte Rampling, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, and Malcolm McDowell. That's getting a Blu-ray release from Kino as well. Now, I have the imprint release. For those of you listening at home, I'm holding up the imprint release of I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. This is the movie directed by Mike Hodges. And this has an audio commentary by Mike Hodges and writer Trevor Preston. Mike Hodges and I'll Sleep When I'm Dead, a documentary, and then 2 deleted scenes, one with a commentary by Mike Hodges and Trevor Preston. So this is another one that Kino is putting out, that imprint has already put out. Now, this whether the Kino release has the same special features that I just mentioned, I have no idea. They haven't mentioned it yet. It does say a brand new HD master from a 4K scan of the 35mm original camera negative. So it may have a new master to it that this one does not have, because this is a release from I don't know how long ago this came out. Let me check how long ago this came out, because they could have done what I said last time that maybe Kino is doing, and that is waiting for these movies to get remasters. So yeah, this came out in March of 2023, and I don't know if this has a new remaster to it. All I know is that it looked very good. It looked very good. It says here from the Blu-ray.com review that it's sourced from an older master that was supplied by Paramount Pictures. So perhaps the Kino release will have a new remaster to go along with it. So Kino taking their time to put stuff out, but I already have it here in my collection. Good movie. Ex-gangster Will Graham thought he had gained back his soul by leaving the hard-boiled life of the criminal world behind him, but when he learns that his younger brother is found dead, Will is drawn back into the city and the business to avenge the gruesome murder of his brother. It's a revenge film with Clive Owen, who used to be this British gangster guy, rather high up, and he left that world. He left that world, and he is now just uh completely drawn out of it. But he learns that his brother has died, and that draws him back into that world, and he tries to figure out what happened. Why is his brother dead? Did it What are the circumstances behind it, and basically who's responsible for it? And he's going to get whoever is responsible for it. And what is interesting is that Clive Owen was really, really good actor. I think he still is a really, really good actor. And I love watching some of his older stuff, because he had that boom in the 2000s where he was doing like Children of Men, as well as a bunch of other films that I think we are all more well aware of. And what's great is that you can go back and watch these movies and rediscover his awesomeness, or discover his awesomeness for the first time. And so that's really cool. So check that out if you haven't already. Mike Hodges is also a really good director. Let me just pull up what he's done. I want to say Mike Hodges also did some British gangster film back in the day. I think he just passed away, actually. No, he passed away in 2022, which is kind of recent. So let me see what we've got here from Mike Hodges, director wise. he directed Croupier, which is another film starring Clive Owen that he did. He did he did right before I Sleep with When I'm Dead. Yes, but Mike Hodges, if I remember correctly, I think he did Get Carter. Yeah, Get Carter from 1971, the British gangster film starring Michael Caine. Great film. Great film. Check that film out if you haven't already. There is a remake of it with Sylvester Stallone, which is also rather good, but the original is superb. So let's move on from there to something else. There are a few more Kino releases that I want to mention that aren't on their Facebook page. Let me look at my notes list a little quickly. Oh yes. So The Sacrifice, which is the last film directed by Tarkovsky, is getting a 4K UHD release. I think that's important to mention because it hasn't been it came out on Blu-ray in 2011. So and there was a restored Blu-ray in 2018, and in January 28th of not January, in February 4th, February 4th, it is getting a 4K UHD release from Kino. Another masterwork from a masterful director, Andrei Tarkovsky. And this movie, I think we're getting the details of it now. Yes. It just started having its screenings of the new 4K restoration in October, so we're finally getting the release in February. This is a must buy for me. It's a must buy. I have Nostalgia, which Kino put out in 4K UHD, and that looked incredible. So I've got to get The Sacrifice because it is indeed his last film, and I've got to get it for my Tarkovsky section, for my collection. So I want to mention that really quickly. And there is a box set actually being put out by Kino as well, which I think is rather important. And I think it's something that we need to take note of. So there's an Oscar Micheaux, the complete collection being put out on Blu-ray. 17 movies. They range from 1920 to 1940. And this is coming out February 11th, 2025. And Oscar Micheaux was a pioneer of the Black cinema, of African American cinema, and we saw a little bit of his work in the Pioneers box set that Kino put out already. Pioneers of African American Cinema, the box set which had films that ranged from 1915 to 1946, and it had a few Oscar Micheaux films in there, but I don't think it had all of his films. So this would be a box set that's kind of a spin-off of that box set, and where it would include all of his films, I believe so. So this is the Oscar Micheaux collection. Yeah, the Oscar Micheaux, the complete collection, February 11th. And I'm trying to get some info on it, but there's not. I probably would have to go to, I may go to the Kino website. Let me go over to the Kino website and see if I can pull up some info on it, specifically what films are actually in it. Let me take some time to do that. Please excuse me as I type away. Here it is. So we are here. So yeah, 1920 to 1940, coming out February 11th of next year. It says, in this unprecedented undertaking, Kino Classics is in cooperation with the Library of Congress and several international film archives, pay homage to one of cinema's most historically important artists, Oscar Micheaux, who lived from 1884 to 1951. Operating on shoestring budgets completely outside the studio system, Micheaux explored the Black experience with nuance and depth, often challenging the negative stereotypes so commonly portrayed in films of the era. The 5-disc collection showcases the director's entire surviving body of work, including 7 new restorations of Within Our Gates, The Symbol of the Unconquered, Body and Soul, God's Stepchildren, Veiled Aristocrats, Murder in Harlem, and the notorious Eleanor Lee. It also showcases Micheaux's rarely seen genre films such as Lying Lips, Underworld, and The Swing. From the best surviving elements. Introduction by series curator Rhea L. Combs, printed booklet of film notes, theatrical trailers for select films, and a 2024 theatrical re-release trailer. So this is a impressive collection of a deeply archival type of work here. Important historical stuff, similar to the box sets that Kino has put out already, the Pioneers of Women in Film and the Pioneers of African American Cinema. This is going to go along greatly with those. It looks like it's just in a regular Blu-ray case, so it's not quite as thick as those sets are. As I look, yeah, there they are they're on my shelf up there. So don't be too disappointed if you wanted them to be similar to those sets. It doesn't look like this is. So that is it from Kino, because that's a lot from Kino. I think we need to move on. So let me look back at my notes and see where we can go from here. Let's move on to Arrow. Yes, let's move on to Arrow, because I've got my Arrow stuff lined up right in this next one. So we've got a few releases from Arrow here. These are the February batch of movies. They are A Certain Killer / A Killer's Key from 1967, The Last Stop in Yuma County from 2023, Lifeforce from 1985, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 from 1986, Alice Sweet Alice from 1976, and William Friedkin's Cruising from 1980. So, some interesting releases here, some interesting re-releases here of probably things you have in your collections already. But let's start here with A Certain Killer / A Killer's Key. In A Certain Killer, Shiozaki's low-profile existence as a chef at a local sushi restaurant serves as a front for his true job as a professional assassin, whose modus operandi is poisoned needles. He is approached by Maida, a low-ranking member of a local Yakuza group, to take out a rival gang boss. But the sudden arrival into his life of a spirited young woman, Kiko, has dramatic ramifications on his relationship with his new employer. Ichikawa's lone wolf assassin is back in A Killer's Key, this time masquerading as a traditional dance instructor named Anita, who is called in to avert a potential financial scandal that threatens to engulf a powerful Yakuza group with ties to powerful figures in the political establishment. Co-scripted by the director Yazumi Masumura and featuring masterful scope cinematography with an expressionist eye for color by one of Japan's most esteemed cinematographers, Kazuo Miyagawa, who shot Rashomon and Ugetsu. These Japanese crime drama essentials are presented for the very first time to the English language home video market. So what you got here is a double feature of the Japanese noir from the 1960s, Japanese gangster films from the 1960s involving the Yakuza in various ways. For special features here, you've got high definition presentation of both films. This is just a Blu-ray release. You got a brand new audio commentary for both films by critic and Asian cinema expert Tony Raines. The Definite Murderer, a brand new 30-minute introduction to the films by Japanese film scholar Mark Roberts. And that is it. This is coming out February 11th here in the US, February 10th in the UK. The next film here, The Last Stop in Yuma County, I've talked about it already because it's getting a release from... Oh, who's it getting a release from? I believe it's Umbrella. Let me check. Let me check here. Yeah, The Last Stop in Yuma County is getting a release in December. Actually, it actually got released last week from Umbrella Entertainment. Umbrella's already putting it out, and this is a film that just, I think, got a theatrical release of this year. And yeah, so this is a movie about the traveling salesman who gets caught at a truck stop because he drives to a truck stop because he needs to refuel his car, but the truck stop has no fuel and they're waiting on the fuel truck to arrive. But there is a restaurant nearby where people basically are waiting for this fuel truck to show up. And what ends up happening is these guys who robbed a bank in nearby end up showing up and want to hide out at this truck stop while they need to refuel as well, and they end up taking the place hostage. They end up taking the people hostage who who are staying there, and one of them happens to be a traveling knife salesman portrayed by Jim Cummings, and he is just one of these people, and the whole movie takes place at this location, and it's kind of like a Mexican standoff where everybody's just it's tenseful, and they're just in in this one area, and there's the interplay with these characters and how they're kind of just all stuck there for different circumstances. Um, it's really, really good. It's a very tightly knit film. It's a very well paced, tightly knit film. Um, it's really good. I really liked it, and there's 3 audio commentaries of as special features. Excuse me. Audio commentary with director Francis Gallopy and executive producer James Clays. Audio commentary with Francis Gallopy and actors Jim Cummings and Jocelyn Donahue. Audio commentary with Francis Gallopy and cinematographer Mac Fiskin. Trust the Audience, a new interview with Francis Gallopy. Leave the Gun, Take the Rhubarb, a new video essay by film critic Matt Donato. Sell Your House, a making of featurette, three screenplay to film comparisons. So yeah, that's that movie coming out February 17th. We've got Lifeforce. Now we've got a pair of Tobe Hooper films here. I've had Lifeforce in my collection probably for a decade or so. Scream Factory put it out on Blu-ray, and I believe they've since put it out in 4K. It's the Tobe Hooper vampiric aliens film where these vampires come down from space disguised as really attractive women who like seduce you and then take your life force from you. And it's about as silly as one would expect it to be. It's space vampires with a screenplay co-written by Dan O'Bannon, who wrote the screenplay for Alien and Return of the Living Dead. It's directed by Tobe Hooper, but this is Tobe Hooper in the 80s. Tobe Hooper in the 80s was kind of wacky, kind of great, and kind of over the top. I kind of like the movie Lifeforce for as wild of a B type of movie as it is. I like it. I like it. But this has a brand new restoration, 4K restoration by Arrow Films of the 116-minute international cut, plus a 4K restoration of the 101-minute theatrical cut from the original negative. You've got 3 audio commentaries as well. You've got audio commentary by Tobe Hooper, moderated by filmmaker Tim Sullivan. You've got a commentary by visual effects artist Douglas Smith, moderated by filmmaker and scholar Howard S. Berger. You've got an audio commentary with makeup effects artist Nick Maley, moderated by filmmaker Michael Fleischer. Felsher. And then you got Cannon Fodder, The Making of Lifeforce, an epic look at the genesis, production, and release of the film, featuring interviews with a bunch of people. There's too many to list here. I can't list all these people, but it's everybody seemingly who worked on the movie, production-wise. It is a canon movie. That's something to keep in mind as well. And then you got Space Vampires in London, an archive interview with Tobe Hooper, Dangerous Beauty, an archive interview with Matilda May, Carlson's Curse, an archive interview with Steve Ralsback, and then Texas opening sequence. I've always kind of liked that movie, Lifeforce. I would have to do a side-by-side comparison with the Scream Factory release to see what we're missing and what we're losing out when it comes to this release, and vice versa. So, disc 1 is the international cut. Disc 2 is the theatrical cut. So, yeah. And we got another Tobe Hooper film here, which I think many of us know of. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which is vastly different than the first film. Also, many of you listening and watching probably already have this movie in your collection because Vinegar Syndrome put out a gargantuan set of it a couple of years ago. It was a massive set that sold out very, very quickly. And I know many people ended up getting it, whether it was the limited edition version or the standard edition version. Let me see when that one came out. I think it came out, I want to say 2022. Perhaps I'm a little off with my dates. I remember when it came out and people were absolutely losing their minds over the movie. So it came out, 2022. That's when it came out. And The only difference that I saw between this the Arrow release that's coming out and the Vinegar Syndrome release is that I think they have a different commentary on each of them, and I think, the Arrow release is missing a couple of special features. One in particular that comes to mind is one that was about Tom Savini and his special effects work. That one I think is not on the Arrow release, but it carries over quite a bit of the special features from the Vinegar Syndrome set. So if you have the Vinegar Syndrome set, you may not need to double dip on this one here it because you're getting pretty much everything, unless of course you really want that missing um that missing commentary. And also I believe there is there's a new visual essay on the Arrow release as well. There's a new visual essay by Scout Tafoya. Now, I'm not going to read all of these special features here because it's quite extensive. Uh, I figured you guys could do that all on your own. I just wanted to make sure to mention that there is there is a difference between the Vinegar Syndrome release and the Arrow release when it comes to special features. But that Vinegar Syndrome release was quite extensive. Like that was a pretty damn near definitive release of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Now, for those of you who have never seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and are fans of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, very different movies. Very different movies. The one Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 plays like an 80s horror comedy. It's so over the top, it's so ridiculous. The Dennis Hopper is as a guy who's on the pursuit of the family from the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, who are portrayed quite differently. They're over the top, they're wild, they're kind of zany. Maybe not zany, but you know what I mean if you've seen the movie. And yeah, it's a lot different, and it's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting because if anything, it's bold to make a sequel that is so different than the original. So different than the original. At least you're doing something new. You're not just rehashing the original, which we see a lot with a lot of sequels, especially sequels that happen years after the original release. I think this happened about 12 years or so after the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You got a sequel, and for it to be so vastly different is so bold and so unique. I find, especially in the world of modern filmmaking and whatnot. But that's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which I know a lot of people are hyped about, deservedly so. Um, it's a 2-disc edition, whether you get the 4K release or whether you get the Blu-ray release. But the 4K release, you only get the movies in 4K, or you only get the movie in 4K, and you don't get a Blu-ray edition of the movie. Unfortunately, the Blu-ray disc is only the extensive special features packaging, which is unfortunate that that's what Arrow is pretty standard doing now. You know, I liked having both the 4K and Blu-ray edition of the movie in one package, uh, but that's just me. So that's coming out February 17th as well. And we have Alice, Sweet Alice, which is getting a Blu-ray release as well as a 4K UHD. No, it's getting a 4K UHD release and a Blu-ray release. Now, Alice, Sweet Alice is interesting. So, on the day of her first communion, young Karen, who was portrayed by very young Brooke Shields, is savagely murdered by an unknown assailant in a yellow raincoat and creepy mask. But the nightmare is far from over as the knife-wielding maniac strikes again and again. Karen's bereaved parents are forced to confront the possibility that Karen's wayward sister Alice might be the one behind the mask. So what we have here is a kind of a 1970s giallo-esque type of slasher murder film, with this young girl at the center of it. For the most part, it's similar to Nicholas Roeg's Don't Look Now. I saw that being compared here. And yeah, you've got this movie where it's got this troubled young girl who may or may not be this slasher killer who killed her sister, who's attacking other people. And the movie does a decent enough job of kind of hiding who the actual killer may or may not be. And you kind of go along on this little mystery ride. And I liked it. I like the movie. I know this movie has been around for several years. I'm pretty sure many horror fans have seen it, uh, but it was a first time watch for me. Um, Let me see. Yeah, the original Blu-ray that was put out by Arrow came out in 2019. So this is a re-release from them. It's a re-release with a brand new 4K restoration by Arrow Films from the original camera negative. I believe there's a brand new audio commentary on here from Richard Harlan Smith. There's an archive audio commentary on here from Alfred Soule, who is the director, and editor Edward Salier. I won't go through everything here. Just in interest of time. So next we've got Cruising, which is another 4K re-release. Excuse me. So the 4K re-release of Cruising is something I've been waiting for so long. I've been debating whether to get this movie on Blu-ray. It's been available for several years now. It's a William Friedkin film from 1980. It's a movie that many people have seen and talked about, starring Al Pacino. And we talked about it on the previous episode of Chasing Labels here. And it's a movie that's kind of controversial, dealing with the underground LGBTQ community of the early 1980s and things like that. Um, so depicting certain things and whatnot. But I really like the movie. I think it's dark and gritty and all that kind of stuff. It's on the bridge of that 1970s gritty and 1980 grittiness as well, where Al Pacino plays this detective who has to go underground into these kind of these gay clubs to find a killer who's targeting that community. And he's also kind of prejudiced against that community as well. So that kind of adds to it. And the movie, I like the movie, but like I was saying, I've been debating whether to get the Blu-ray because what we've been seeing now when it comes to Arrow, when it comes to Kino, when it comes to Shout and Scream Factory, they're upgrading their Blu-rays to 4Ks pretty regularly right now. So I needed to wait it out, and lo and behold, my perseverance and my patience rewards me with this 4K re-release of Cruising. This is coming with a 120-page perfect bound book, brand new 4K restoration from the 35 millimeter camera negative by Arrow Films themselves. It's a 2-disc set. It's got a bunch of special features here. It's got interviews with actors and the editor here. It's got a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to go through everything. It's got a William Friedkin Beyond Fest 2022 Q&A at the American Cinematheque. That's really awesome because we all know that William Friedkin recently passed away. So anything that you can get when it comes to interviews with William Friedkin as a special feature, whether you're watching it on YouTube or wherever it may be, that's a historical piece now, really, since he's passed. So that's really awesome that that's on here. There's, like I said, interviews. There's a brand new interview with actor, film consultant, and former police detective Randy Jurgensen in here as well. There's 2 archival commentaries with Friedkin himself. I cannot wait to have this in my collection because I've been waiting many years for it. And it looks like it's also going to be one of those deluxe editions where it's going to be, the thicker hard case. I wish I had one of them. Oh, I do have one of them right next to me. Just in the nick of time. I've got The Apartment. So for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see I have the Blu-ray edition of The Apartment put out by Arrow Video, the thicker case that has, the book on the inside as well as the Blu-ray or 4K case, depending on which edition you get. So it'll be coming in one of those. And I think originally the original Blu-ray release only had a slipcover. The slipcover for that is tough to find now. Or it's tough to find one with the slipcover. They price them pretty overpriced on eBay. Not anymore. Not with this release coming out. All of those scalpers and all those overpricers just got their comeuppance, I guess. So let's move away from Arrow. Let's go to Eureka. What are we doing here for time? We are almost 2 hours in. Let's go to Eureka. Eureka has a bunch of things here that we will get into. They've got a box set of their own. It's called Mabuse Lives, Dr. Mabuse at CCC 1960 to 1964. They're putting out Shaolin Boxers from 1974. And they're putting out a double feature of the Daredevils and Ode to Gallantry, two Venom mob films, 1979 and 1982. So Mabuse rules. Mabuse rules. I guess he does. Mabuse Lives is a box set that has 6 films in it, and it's part of the Dr. Mabuse film series, if you will. And the 6 films are The Thousand Eyes of Dr. Mabuse, The Return of Dr. Mabuse, The Invisible Dr. Mabuse, The Testament of Dr. Mabuse, Scotland Yard Hunts Dr. Mabuse, The Death Ray of Dr. Mabuse, and that's all of them. And this is a limited edition to 2,000 copies. Let me see what we got here for special features. Let's see. So, actually, The Thousand Eyes of Dr. Mabuse is Fritz Lang's last film. Interesting. So, let's see. Description here. Fritz Lang made 2 of the defining works of early German cinema with Dr. Mabuse the Gambler and The Testament of Dr. Mabuse, 2 masterpieces centered on Norbert Jacques' nefarious literary supervillain. In 1960, Lang was charged by Arthur Brauner's CCC film with making a 3rd crime thriller centered on the infamous Dr. Mabuse, completing a trilogy nearly 40 years in the making, a huge success. The Thousand Eyes of Dr. Mabuse gave CCC the confidence to launch into an entire series focused on the master criminal between 1960 and 1964, all starring Wolfgang Priest in the title role. All 6 films are presented here alongside a wealth of new and archival extras. I remember the Dr. Mabuse, The Gambler, and The Testament of Dr. Mabuse, because those have been released before. Dr. Mabuse, The Gambler, I want to say had a Criterion DVD. Let me see if I can locate some more info about this. So Dr. Mabuse, The Gambler also, I think, has a Blu-ray release from Kino. Yes, I think Kino has like all of those 7 done. Dr. Mabuse, what was the second film that I just mentioned? The Testament of Dr. Mabuse. So The Testament of Dr. Mabuse has a, no, it's not. It does not have a solo Blu-ray release. Yeah. So the Testament of Dr. Mabuse doesn't have a solo Blu-ray release, at least not that I see right now. I thought it may be in because Kino has put out a Fritz Lang box set. I thought maybe it would be in there, but it's not. So with this box set here, you get the continuation of that Fritz Lang series that he started, essentially. And I remember both Dr. Mabuse the Gambler and Testament of Dr. Mabuse were influences for Christopher Nolan's Joker character. I remember Christopher Nolan mentioning that in his top 10 Criterion list. If you go to criterion.com, I think you can see Christopher Nolan's top 10 Criterion films, and I believe one of the both of Dr. Mabuse films are on that list. And those, they were influences for what he was thinking of when he was adapting the Joker, Heath Ledger's The Joker in The Dark Knight. So that's very interesting. This box set here looks very interesting. It's new. New 2K restorations of all 6 films, original German audio and English dubs. It's got archival audio commentary on The Thousand Eyes of Dr. Mabuse by film historian and author David Catlett. New audio commentaries on the other 5 films by historian and author David Catlett as well. Mabuse Lives at CCC, new interview with producer and managing director of CCC film Alice Brauner, daughter of CCC founder Arthur Brauner. New introduction to each film by genre film expert and video watchdog founder Tim Lucas. Cool. Criminology, new video essay by David Cairns and Fiona Watson. 2002 interview with actor Wolfgang Priest. Alternate endings for Thousand Eyes of Dr. Mabuse and the death ray of Dr. Mabuse. Limited edition hard case featuring new artwork by Tony Stella, our buddy Tony Stella here on Chasing Labels. Limited edition 60-page collector's book featuring new notes on each film by journalist Holger Haas and new essay by German film scholar Tim Bergfelder. An archival essay by David Cairn, archival writing by Fritz Lang, and notes by Lot Eisner on Lang's final unreleased projects. This is both Region A and Region B, so you can get it here in the US. There will be a US release on April 1st, and the UK release will be on March 31st. Interesting that a series that concentrates around a supervillain is releasing on April Fool's Day. Interesting. So we've got this double feature here, the Daredevils and Ode to Gallantry. Set in Republic era China, the Daredevils follows a... Let's see, hold on. Okay. Sorry, my fault. Set in Republic era China, the Daredevils follows Yang Tai-ying as he sets out to avenge his father, a military commander who was murdered in cold blood by Han Pei-sang, a thief-turned-soldier who killed Yang's father, along with the rest of his family, to take control of his estate and his army. With the help of his friends Chen Fang, Fu Kuanyi, and Jin Zhang, he sets out for justice. Then in Ode to Gallantry, a lone martial artist nicknamed Mongrel is continually drawn into an intense struggle between several warring martial arts clans after he stumbles across the Black Iron Token, which entitles the owner to have any wish granted by Ji Young-hee, a brutal kung fu master. After forming in 1978 for Five Deadly Venoms, the Venom Mob made over a dozen films with Chang Che that featured at least 3 of their number in starring roles, filled with thrilling action set pieces courtesy of some of the most talented martial artists to emerge in the 1970s. The Daredevils and Ode to Gallantry are 2 of the finest among them. Eureka Classics is proud to present this duo of collaborations between Chang Che and the Venom Mob on Blu-ray. This is a Blu-ray only release. There's 2 new audio commentaries by East Asian film expert Frank Zhang and martial artist and filmmaker Michael Worth. 2 new commentaries by action cinema experts Mike Leader and Arn Venema. Deadly Venoms, a new interview with Hong Kong cinema scholar Wayne Wong on the Venom Mob. And then a limited edition collector's booklet featuring new writings by writer and critic James Oliver. US street date is March 25th, UK street date March 25th, and then we have Shaolin Boxers. Now, Shaolin Boxers, I believe, is also part of one of the Golden Harvest sets that's being put out by Shout Factory. I think it's the second Golden Harvest set. So just keep that in mind. In the village of Fukien, the people are terrified by the local security squad led by Ho Young, who gained his position by bribing the referee in the village's annual martial arts tournament. In order to wrestle control from his band of tyrants, Chang Tae, the master of the local Shaolin school, enters the competition to prove his dominance and free the villagers from their obligations to pay for Ho's protection. But Ho Young does not intend on relinquishing power so easily and teams up with Lei Bao, a kung fu adept. It says a kung fu adept with shaky morale to ensure that Xuan Te does not emerge victorious. 2K restoration of the film, original Mandarin audio, new audio commentary with East Asian film expert Frank Zhang, new audio commentary with Hong Kong cinema experts Mike Leader and Arn Venema. Shaolin Style, new interview with Wayne Wong, editor of Martial Arts Studios. Cool. Coming out March 25th. That is it from Eureka. I didn't get to watch any of those, so sorry I didn't have much to say about it personally. But we've got to move on from here. Let's see what we've got else going here. So that was Arrow. That was Arrow, and that was Eureka. Let's see what else we've got going on here. I think we want to move over to probably some individual releases. Some individual releases that are uh, of note here will be, let's see. So we've got, um, last summer. This is a Catherine Breillat film. Catherine Breillat, who many of you probably know as the French director who is in the Criterion Collection. She directed uh, the film Fat, which is a very rather controversial film, specifically for I don't want to spoil it, but it takes a turn. The movie takes a turn, but she's also directed several other films as well. Um, she directed sexist comedy. She directed Fat Girl. The movie was called Fat Girl, but she directed the movie Romance. She directed the movie 36 Filette, Un Vrai Jeune Fille, which is a real young girl. And her films deal a lot with sexual themes, um, female sexual themes, and things like that. I've only seen a few of her films. I haven't seen a lot of her work, and it's a movie that and this film here came out last year, I want to say. And it's a movie, like I said, called Last Summer, and it is currently streaming on the Criterion channel. So follows Anne, a brilliant lawyer who lives with her husband Pierre and their daughters. Anne gradually engages in a passionate relationship with Theo, Pierre's son from a previous marriage, putting her entire career and family life in danger. What this doesn't tell you is that Theo is a teenager. And what this doesn't tell you is that um, she is a lawyer who deals primarily with um, underage victims of abuse, whether it be sexual, whether it be physical, parental, familial crime, any type of crime like that. So she is in that world of defending people who are victims of those types of crimes, while at the same time also committing them herself. So you get the conflict of the movie. You get where the movie pushes the boundaries of what the story is telling, of what the characters are doing. And Catherine Breillat is no stranger to pushing those boundaries and is no stranger to challenging us as audience members. Um, it's a fascinating movie on those lines and those moral areas, really. And wow, what an interesting movie to take that to portray these things in. If you go onto the Criterion channel, if you have access to the Criterion channel streaming service, there's a 4-minute interview with John Waters who talks about this movie. The interviewer and him kind of go back and forth over the movie, and it's rather interesting of the things they have to say about it and how this movie has such gall to go to certain places. And it really does. It really does. I was kind of surprised, probably shouldn't have been surprised about where it was going. And yeah, it's called Last Summer. It's available to stream on the Criterion channel, but it's not going to be an easy watch for many, uh, and probably not an easy watch for most people because it does, push certain taboo boundaries of a sexual nature. So be aware of that. I don't think, unfortunately, this has any type of special feature, and I think the reason being is because it is a Janus contemporary release. That's why I wanted to mention it. It's coming out February 18th, and I think it has Meet the Filmmakers, a new interview with director Catherine Breillat. That is it. These Janus contemporary films releases don't really have a lot in the way of special features. If they have one or two, you're lucky. But the Janus contemporary films releases, there are quite a few of them now. I have one way down here. It's at the bottom of this stack. I'm not going to dig it out, but it's Anselm, the film that was put out by Vim Vendors. I had to get that. I know EO is another film that was put out, Janus Contemporaries. Plus, there's a whole bunch of them. Go to the Criterion Collection website, and I think you will. You'll be able to get the listing of all of them. It's quite a few now. I know there's a lot of Criterion collectors out there who have all of them. The thing for me is I've gotta I've gotta get them while they're cheap. You know what I mean? At the Criterion sale at Barnes& and Noble, they're like $15 a piece, which is a really good value because you're only getting the movie, and the movies are good, at least from the ones I've seen. So this is the Janus contemporary release of last summer, put out by Catherine Breillat, or directed by Catherine Breillat. Um, yeah, so that's that film. Let me see what else I've got here in my notes. Oh, we'll go, you know what we'll do? We'll go over to Radiance. Yes, because I've got Radiance up here. And Radiance put out 4 announcements here. Well, 3 from them and 1 from one of their like partner labels that they've got going on there. So the partner label release is Rulers of the City. And this is put out by Raro Video. And this movie stars Jack Palance. And this is a Fernando De Leo film. Fernando De Leo, the Italian director. It's called Rulers of the City. Cool cover. It's got Jack Palance with him like a machine gun. So it's kind of selling what the movie's about. So Tony, a debt collector for a small-time Roman boss, dreams of making it big. He meets Rick and decides to back him up in order to screw over an American gangster called Scarface Manzari, who is Jack Palance, who monopolizes all the crime in the city. But Rick is driven by revenge on Manzari because he had treacherously killed his father after a robbery years earlier. An Italian crime classic from Fernando De Leo. The Rules of the City features his trademark violence and action with a strain of dark humor, producing one of the filmmaker's most enjoyable slices of Eurocrime. That's a cool little genre there. Newly restored in 4K, it is presented on Blu-ray in the UK for the first time. So a 2020 4K restoration of the original camera negative. You got a archival featurette here called Violent City, including interviews with Fernando De Leo, Al Cliver, editor Amidio Giomini, and weapons expert Gilberto Galimberti. A new interview with Eurocrime authority Mike Malloy on the childhood revenge theme, and oh boy, Poliziateschi, which I guess is the Italian like police crime films. You see a lot of that from the 70s. A lot of that's been released lately. A lot of it, coincidentally, from Radiance. And then you got new and improved English subtitle, limited edition booklet with new writing by Francesco Massacre. These are their March releases, by the way. This is coming out in March from Radiance. Fernando De Leo film, put out by Raro Video, Rulers of the City. Cool stuff there. Let's see what else we've got cooking here. So we are on Radiance for those of you listening at home, for those of you watching, and the Radiance releases are from them directly. The Eel, Je t'aime, and then a box set here. We all love the Radiance box sets of Hardboiled, 3 pulp thrillers by Alain Corneau. So let's get into what I did get to see, which is The Eel and Je t'aime. So The Eel, this is a film directed by, let me see if I can get the director here. Nice if they would just list it directly on here. I always get befuddled. I always get befuddled by, hold on, let me go check on, yeah, this always catches me off guard every single time, is that trying to find out specifically who the directors are of some of these movies from Radiance. They don't put them right out front, so I've got to kind of look for, Shohei Imamura. Shohei Imamura directs The Eel, and The Eel is a really good film. So I'll give you the synopsis here. After serving time in prison for murdering his unfaithful wife, Yamashita is released on parole, accompanied only by his pet eel. Hoping to stay out of trouble, he takes over a rural barber shop that quickly becomes a gathering point for the eccentric locals. However, the discovery of a woman's failed suicide starts a chain reaction that brings back past demons, and not just his own. The Eel won master filmmaker Shohei Imamura his second Palme d'Or after 1983's The Ballad of Narayama, and was the breakthrough of its star Yakusho. So this film did win the Palme d'Or, but it also shared it with another film called Taste of Cherry, the Abbas Kiarostami film, which is an astonishing masterpiece of a film. The Abbas Kiarostami film has a Blu-ray release and a DVD release from Criterion. I have it in my collection, and that movie is such a master work of a film. My goodness. So for this movie to share the Palme d'Or with that, This movie had to be good, and it is indeed very, very good. So what you've got here is you've got this character who goes to prison for this horrific crime that he commits. And after 8 years, he is released on parole and he tries to, live a different life. He starts a barber shop and he's just trying to live his life. And him trying to be this reformed criminal and this reformed person, that battle is all within him. It's not really outward, and he kind of just wants to be left alone. And he actually only really confides and talks to his pet eel. That's how he kind of is able to process all of this this stuff. And he meets several characters along the way. The woman that they mentioned in the synopsis here, someone who tried to commit suicide, and he finds her and he basically rescues her. So she becomes like attached to him. She, starts becoming, she starts working at his barber shop. She starts like making him like food and like starts trying to attach to him. But he so has his own stuff going on that he doesn't want to be involved with anyone because of his past relationship issues as well. So he's trying to internalize his own trauma and his own past and move on with a new future, but it's tough. And the film is bringing up this kind of idea that can criminals be reformed? Can they can they return to society and live different lives than their previous life that got them into prison? Specifically in this case, violent criminals who committed a murder. Can that happen? And the movie doesn't really give you the answers to that because there really is no clean answer to that. It's still something I think we're battling with now in our society. When it comes to criminal reform now, when it comes to criminality, when it comes to the prison system we have here in the United States and all this kind of stuff. I know this is Japan and it's a different time, but I'm just talking in general terms of, prison reform and, incarceration reform and whether prisoners and criminals can be reformed and all that kind of stuff. And the movie does kind of play around with those themes. And I think that's really what the movie gets at the heart as. And there's another character in this film that he comes along who was in the same prison as him. And the way in which he processes all of these things is very externally, which is the opposite of our main character. Very externally with, self-destructive ways and just destructive ways in general. And our main character kind of internalizes all of that processes. It's a very good movie. This is the movie called The Eel, directed by Shoei Imamura, winner of the Cannes Film Festival, Palme d'Or. What do we got here for special features? A high-definition digital transfer, interview with critic Tony Raines, interview with screenwriter Daisuke Tengen, visual essay by Tom Mess on the year 1997 as a turning point in Japanese cinema. And that's it. This is a definite must-buy for me. I'm buying all of the, or as many Radiance releases as I can. I just got 3 in the mail, actually. Let me see if I got them here somewhere. Yes, I do. Here they are. I just got these 3 in the mail. Talk about, Black Friday goodness and talk about all that stuff. I just got Black Type Killers. I just got The Sting of Death. And I just got Le Combat dans Lille. So I'm catching up with Radiance releases. I'm still like a little bit of a year behind or so. I still got several ones I have to get from this year. I still got several ones I have to get from late last year. But on a typical normal schedule, Radiance is always announcing stuff every single month. They're going to be announcing stuff next month as well. So everybody keep your eyes out for Radiance. So let's move on from The Eel over to Je t'aime, Je t'aime. Je t'aime, Je t'aime is directed by Alain Resnais. Alain Resnais directed 3 of the greatest movies I've ever seen, and probably 3 of the greatest films, I think, perhaps in existence. And this film, while I would say not one of his greater films, is still very good and very original and very unique. So Alain Resnais, for those of you who don't know who Alain Resnais is, he directed the film Night and Fog, which is the Holocaust documentary from 1956. It's about 32 minutes long. It's been on DVD and it's been out from the Criterion Collection forever. Forever. It is essential viewing. Um, it's a documentary done about 11 years after the end of the war, 11 years after you know, closing of the concentration camps during the Holocaust and things like that. And the movie is it's unspeakable. It's you can't describe it. It's night and fog. It's unspeakable pure cinema about a horrific event of our time. Truly incredible. There's Night and Fog, and then there's the documentary Showa, which is much more lengthy and much more in depth and all that stuff. Alain Rene, when it comes to his documentaries, at least Night and Fog, it, it it's just about kind of seeing the footage. Like the footage speaks for itself. You know what I mean? Just letting the visuals of just letting the visuals talk. It's truly a masterwork of a film. My goodness. And then we've got his film, uh, another masterwork, Hiroshima Mon Amour, 1959. My God. Um, a movie. Then again, speak, you can't describe the perfection of these movies. Hiroshima Mon Amour is operating on a level that is just too perfect for words. It's Yeah, I just watch the movie, man. Just watch the movie. I can't speak. And then you got Last Year at Marienbad from 1961, which is a movie that is a surreal masterwork of unique proportions that that is indescribable. These movies are indescribable cinematic perfection. And they're all different. And they're all different. So you've got Hiroshima Mon Amour, you got Night and Fog, and you have Last Year at Marienbad, all done by Alain Rene. And then you have Je t'aime, Je t'aime. And Je t'aime came out in 1968. And this premise will be a little familiar to some of you here. So, Je t'aime, which is I love you, uh, is, yes, should you order, let's see. Je t'aime. Claude leaves the hospital recovered from a failed suicide attempt when some scientists offer him the chance to be part of a project. He will be the first human subject in a time travel experiment, traveling back in time 1 year for just 1 minute. He becomes lost in a continually shifting mosaic of temporal episodes, a noted influence on Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, the Michel Gondry film. That's the reference. That's what I was referring to. In Je t'aime, Alain Rene brings his cinematic obsession of time to the fore in this ingenuous melding of sci-fi and romance. So, for those of you who have seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, you'll be familiar with the way this movie is structured. So, this guy after a failed suicide attempt, these scientists ask him, would you like to take part in this experiment? Well, you will travel back in time for 1 year for 1 minute. And he goes inside of this time machine apparatus thing. And what happens is something goes wrong, and he ends up basically time shifting through different moments of his life, and specifically centered around the relationship he has with this woman. There's the Eternal Sunshine connection right there, and you see small moments, and moments can last for a few seconds to a couple of minutes, couple of minutes, and it's all jumbled up in terms of a timeline. It could be you really don't know the order of things. So as a viewer, you're kind of caught off guard and you're kind of all over the place throughout the movie. I would say that's really one of the more negative aspects of the movie, is while it's incredibly bold and experimental and unique for the filmmaking of its time, it's tough for a viewer to get into this movie because you're bouncing around so much. And it's also tough to really latch on to the relationship that you're seeing. It's not like Eternal Sunshine, where what holds that movie together and what holds our attention is the relationship between the Jim Carrey and the Kate Winslet character. Like, you are locked into that relationship. That's what carries you through that movie. You don't quite get that feeling in this movie here, so it can feel a little standoffish. That's the one kind of negative thing about the movie. But as you're bouncing around through this time frame in this movie, things do become clear, and you get to the point where, why did he do what he did? Why is he where he is now? So you do get there. So when it comes to special features here, 2K restoration presented on UK Blu-ray for the first time, uncompressed mono PCM audio, interview with critic and it's just such as critic David Jenkins, audio interview with director Alain René from 2007, interview with actor Claude Rich, interview with screenwriter Jacques Sternberg and film historian René expert Francois Thomas. In the Ears of Alain René, a documentary on the filmmaker with a focus on music and voices in his work, featuring collaborators and critics, including including the filmmaker himself, actor Lambert Wilson, writer and actress Anya Jouy, critic Michael Cement, and others. That's 54 minutes long. That's pretty extensive. Yeah, that is Je t'aime, Je t'aime. Alain René, Je t'aime, Je t'aime. These are all coming out in March, if I didn't say that already. Let's move on to the box set. I don't have much to say about the box set because I didn't get to watch these movies, unfortunately. Didn't have the time. So it's called Hardboiled, 3 pulp thrillers by Alain Corneau. Let's see. Hardboiled genre crime. The hard-boiled genre of crime fiction evolved from the mystery crime novels of the early 20th century, closely associated with the U.S. pulp magazines. The cynical, unsentimental stories of desperate criminals and social corruption were both influenced by and an influence on the golden era of film noir. So, let's see what we got here. As their popularity waned in the United States, the hardboiled genre remained hugely popular and relevant through the 1960s and 1970s in France, thanks to the successful série noir imprint and a succession of new translations. In Alain Corneau's early films, he sought to continue the noir tradition in his native France and was both directly and indirectly inspired by titans of hardboiled genre, including Kenneth Ferring and Jim Thompson, a heady combination of classic noir and 70s grit. These 3 darkly thrilling films are vastly underrated and important works in the canon of crime cinema. And these films are these films are Police Python 357. Yves Montand plays a tough cop who, when his lover is found murdered, finds himself implicated in her death and in a battle of wits with a powerful rival in the second screen adaptation of Kenneth Ferring's The Big Clock. Oh, interesting. It's another adaptation of The Big Clock. So you have série noir adapts Jim Thompson's A Hell of a Woman to the banlieues of Paris in an astonishing performance. Patrick Dewar attempts to save a young girl from prostitution with murder the only solution. So yeah, we've got it is Police Python 357, série noir, and Choice of Arms. Those are the 3 movies. I want to make that clear. So série noir is the second one, which I just talked about. In Choice of Arms, Yves Montand heads and cast including Catherine Deneuve and Gerard Depardieu as a former crook pulled out of retirement when a gang on the run turned to him for shelter after a prison break. I want to watch all of these right now. 4K restorations from the original negatives by Studio Canal, presented on all 3 discs. You've got an audio commentary by Mike White on Police Python 357, Maxim Jakubowski on Python 357 source novel and adaptation, archival interview with Alain Corneau and Francois Perrier about the Police Python 357 from Belgian television, série noir set interviews with Alain Corneau, Patrick Dewar, and Miriam Boyer from Belgian television, série noir The Darkness of the Soul, an archival documentary featuring cast and crew on the making of the film. Archival interview with Alain Corneau and Marie Trintignant about série noir, visual essay about Jim Thompson, adaptations for the screen by Paul Martinovich, introduction by documentary filmmaker Jerome Wyman, Shooting choice of arms interview with cast and crew, including behind the scene footage. Interview with the new Montand and Depardieu from the set. Interview with Manuela Lazic on Yves Montand in the 1970s. This is deluxe a set as you can find. My goodness, I am exhausted reading all that stuff and just talking about this. So that is Hardboiled, 3 pulp thrillers by Alain Corneau. I want this set now so I can watch these movies. Let's move on from there. We are done with Radiance, and now we are moving on to Scream Factory / Shout Factory. To be honest, I'm just gonna read off these, just because I didn't get to really get into any of these. Just no, I just didn't have the time. So these are the February releases for Scream / Shout Factory. We have Ghosts of Mars getting a 4K release, Humanoids from the Deep getting a 4K release, Galaxy of Terror getting a 4K release, Sick is getting a 4K release, the first Slam Dunk is getting a 4K release, and then a Chinese Odyssey Parts 1 and 2. I think that is just a Blu-ray release, and these are all coming out in February. So I just wanted to go down the list of all those right away, really quickly. And then I want to move on to something else. So let me pull up some individual releases, and then we'll get on to the Vinegar Syndrome stuff. So let me go over to diabolicdvd.com because they have their Black Cauldron release. Their release of from their own brand, their own label, rather. We should call that label because it is chasing labels here. So they are putting out a box set, and this is going to be a Lamberto Bava box set. And it's going to have the movies Graveyard Disturbance, Until Death, The Ogre, Dinner with a Vampire. And I believe it's also going to come with a CD as well. Let me see. Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 Blu-rays, and the 5th disc is a CD, which is the Bravado Giallo original soundtrack compilation. So each movie gets its own disc release, and with loads of special features on each disc here. I won't go through all of these right now because I didn't get to see any of these movies. But it looks like they're all getting 4K restorations. So Graveyard Disturbance from 1987 is getting a 4K restoration. Until Death from 1988 is getting a 4K scan of the negative. The third film, The Ogre from 1989, is getting a 4K scan of the negative. And then Dinner with a Vampire from 1989 is getting a 4K scan of the negative as well. And looks like each film is coming with an audio commentary. Maybe not. No, I think I just made that up. So, Graveyard Disturbance. 5 young thieves set out for the adventure only to find the stakes to be higher than expected when they bet it all and spend the night in the catacombs from hell. The dead rule the underground and won't be thwarted by mortal screams. If they make it until morning, they'll keep the prize. That is if they make it. Directed by Lamberto Bava. Lamberto Bava is the son of Mario Bava, for those of you not in the know, I guess. But we've got an interview. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 interviews on this disc here. Yeah. And then and there's an audio commentary as well. There's a poster that comes with it. And then we've got the next film, Until Death. A troubled couple have a murderous secret. Linda and Carlo have been living for years with the fear and paranoia of their crime being discovered. They know that someone or something is coming for them. Is it the police or is it the revenge from beyond the grave? And this comes with 1, 2, 3, 4 interviews as well as an audio commentary and a poster. So each of these are getting audio commentaries and posters so far. And then The Ogre. Cheryl, a famous horror writer, draws dark tales from her childhood nightmares. When she takes her family to a remote Italian villa to conjure inspiration, she is confronted by her own memories and a grotesque fiend that inhabits the basement. She and her families must stick together to defeat or escape the ogre. Nice. And it has 1, 2, 3. It's got 3 new interviews plus archival interviews plus an audio commentary. That's nice. And then we got Dinner with a Vampire. 5 aspiring actors get the callback of a lifetime to work with famed director Carl Urich. But first, dinner at his palatial estate, of course. The night takes a cruel twist as Urich reveals he is an ancient vampire yearning for true death. Their task will be to kill him before his vampiric nature takes their lives one by one. That's an interesting premise. Once again, we've got one, two, three, four commentary, four interviews and an audio commentary and a poster as well. And then we've got the CD soundtrack as your fifth disc. Nice package here from Cauldron Films. Really nice package. That's pretty awesome. That was what they announced on Black Friday. Frequent viewer and watcher here, Humboldt Horror Honey, who's not in the chat tonight, she mentioned that Cauldron was having an announcement on Black Friday, and that's what it is. That's what it ended up being. So that Lamberto Bava box set. That's a mouthful to say. It's called Brevido Giallo limited edition box set. You can pre-order that now on diabolic.com. Diabolicdvd.com. Sorry, diabolicdvd.com. So that is that. Let's see what else I have in my notes. Let's see. There's a movie here being put out by Filmmasters called Ginger in the Morning. It's a 50th anniversary edition from 1974. It's being put out December 17th, so like in a week from now. And it's a movie starring Sissy Spacek. That's kind of why I'm curious about it. And it's before she was in Carrie, but I think after she was in Badlands. Yeah, I forgot who directed that movie. But yeah, so Ginger in the Morning. Let me see. I can get a premise up here for everyone. Let me go back. So, Filmmaster has provided final details and official release trailer for its upcoming Blu-ray edition of Gordon Wiles's comedy Ginger in the Morning, starring Sissy Spacek, Monty Markham, Slim Pickens, and Susan Oliver. This release is scheduled to arrive on the market on December 17th. Description: a free-spirited young hitchhiker befriends a middle-aged man in this lighthearted charmer. Sissy Spacek is in between her stars in Badlands and Carrie, plays the title role, and is joined by such stars as Monty Markham, Mark Miller, and Fred Ward. Wow. This movie has a great early 70s feel and may make you yearn for the days when picking up hitchhikers was an everyday thing. I have to be honest with all of you, I don't yearn for those days. But exclusive new 4K restoration of the film from original camera negative, interview with Martin Markham from 2024, and then a new audio commentary here as well. So we've got that movie. Yeah, I've never heard of it, and I'm always interested in discovering new 1970s cinema. And yeah, Terrence Malick directed Badlands. Completely starting to as this show goes on, I get tired, and my recall for movie knowledge becomes weaker and weaker. It's like my kryptonite. Time and fatigue is my kryptonite. So that is that is Ginger in the Morning. So let's see what else we've got here. Oh, Altered Innocence has a movie coming out called Endless Summer Syndrome. I always wanted to bring up Altered Innocence because they put out such great work. I unfortunately did not get to watch this movie, which much to my dismay, because Altered Innocence has put out some really good stuff in the past. I have several in my collection. So, Endless Summer Syndrome is coming out on Blu-ray February 11th. Let's see, the synopsis here is a lazy late summer weekend is disrupted by a shocking allegation when Delphine gets an anonymous call from her husband's colleague about an alleged affair with one of their adopted children. Before leaping to conclusions, she decides to quietly observe her family for a shred of evidence, anything to subside her fear and erase doubt. After the truth presents itself in an unexpected, shocking manner, Delphine chooses to look past the blame for a permanent solution. This boundary-pushing debut, featured by Cave Denishmond, paints an intimate portrait of an upper-class French family with sly black humor and sensuality aplenty. Oh, boy. Interviews with cast and crew, and that is it for special features similar to last summer. Pushing the boundaries of certain sexual taboos seems to be what this movie is going for. Like I said, I've not seen the movie, so I can't comment on it either way, but still looks rather disturbing by just the premise alone. But it is Altered Innocence, and Altered Innocence has never been afraid to shy away from boundary pushing material. They really haven't. Part of why I like them so much has been because they do that in many ways. But that is from Altered Innocence. So let's move on from there. I think we're going to move. We're going to. No, you know what? We got one more. Then we'll move on to Vinegar Syndrome. So we've got. Um, what do we have here? We've got the Golden Fern that's being put out by Deaf Crocodile. So the Golden Fern. Let me get up some information about the Golden Fern. So this is coming out in March 11th of 2025. And this is, once again, another probably stellar release coming out from Deaf Crocodile. They've never really done anything that hasn't been at least remotely interesting. So the Deaf Crocodiles provide a promotional trailer for recent restoration of Yuri Weiss's The Golden Fern from 1963, which is prepared for a Blu-ray release. A preliminary street date has not been revealed yet, but I know that it's coming out in March. So, a handsome young shepherd stumbles across a magical golden fern in the forest, which transforms itself into a stunning, enigmatic woman, Lasanka, who becomes hopelessly devoted to him when he rashly joins the army and heads off to war. She sows a seed from the fern into his shirt to protect him while he's away. Though he falls for the icily beautiful daughter of the commanding general, Adana Schmutna, who demands he perform a series of Herculean tasks to prove his love to her. Fascinating film. This is a Czech film. This is from the Czech New Wave. Yeah, I have not seen a lot of Czech films, so I'm excited. Once again, Deaf Crocodile does a lot of Eastern European films, a lot of Eastern European film releases of films that I've never heard of before, and never heard before, probably because they're from areas that haven't been able to well publicize their films, or they've just been buried underneath other international films that have been more popular over time. Perhaps they've been buried due to certain political reasons. I don't really know. All I know is that Deaf Crocodiles put out a ton of Eastern European films, everything from live action to animation, to stop motion animation, all good stuff. Honestly, an overwhelming amount of interesting stuff that I'm so far behind on adding to my collection, you wouldn't believe how frustrating it is. So, this is the Golden Fern put out by Deaf Crocodile. So now let's go over to Vinegar Syndrome. So let's do a little recap here of what's been going on over at Vinegar Syndrome. So they had their Black Friday sale. I don't know if any of you partook in the Black Friday sale or not. I did a little bit. I bought a few things there. Like I mentioned, I bought the cinematograph release of Going South. Let me see what else did I buy. While I'm on their website, I might as well take a gander because I often sometimes forget these things myself. So I bought the partner label release of Dream Life. I bought, let's see, what other group of things did I buy? Southern Comfort, the VSU release. Touch, I bought, which is the other cinematograph release. 5-card Stud, and Singapore Sling. Singapore Sling, what a movie! Just what a movie! My goodness, I talked about it when it was announced, but what a movie! Also on Vinegar Syndrome's website on that day, they announced quite a few of new releases for that Black Friday. The Keep by which is an early Michael Mann film, sold out in less than 24 hours. The limited edition did, and the standard edition sold out as well in that same time frame. So they ended up releasing a few thousand more copies of the standard edition, so people could at least get it. That had to be the fastest sellout we've had in forever. when it comes to a Black Friday title. Um, I know that a lot of people did not get the limited edition. I know I didn't, so I am waiting for Orbit DVD to get their supply in stock, for Diabolic DVD to get their supply in stock. I'm gonna keep my eyeballs on there every single day for the rest of this month in order to snag one. Because you already know that they're going to be going for super duper prices on eBay and places like that. I've already seen scalpers, doing things like that. It's really, really annoying. Um, because I know it's a thing that's inevitably a part of the collecting world, whether you're collecting comic books or baseball cards or football cards or collecting albums, collecting movies, collecting whatever. There's going to be people going to take advantage of people's want and need for that. That's just capitalism. Unfortunately, it's a pretty immoral form of economics, I would say. But damn, right away, right away, it literally just came out. Um, so you had the keep, you had a sliver, which is was it Philip Noyce film? Unfortunately, Vinegar Syndrome has taken down all of those releases and taken down all their Vinegar Syndrome proper releases because it's partners labels month. So they took down all of those releases and just have their partner label stuff on sale this month, and also announced a bunch of partner label stuff too, which I will definitely get into. But I just wanted to, make comment on what happened on Black Friday and things like that. And hopefully you guys bought some stuff. If you didn't, then you didn't. If you did, then you did. Whatever is best for you is best for you. So let's get into the partner label stuff, just because I am getting tired and we're about 3 hours into this here. And I like to keep these episodes around the 3 hour mark if I can. So let's get into some partner label goodness, shall we? So let me read all these out and then we'll get into what I got to see, what I didn't get to see, all this kind of stuff. So first up here is A Little More Flesh from Art Label. Secondly, here is Bloodorama Triple Frightmares 2, which is put out by AGFA. Next, we have Candy Mountain, which is put out by Film Movement Classics. Then we have Carnage for Christmas, which is put out by Dark Star. Then we have Cash Calls Hell, put out by Film Movement Classics. Then we have Chris Claremont's X-Men, put out by ETR Media. Close Your Eyes, put out by Film Movement. The Coffee Table, put out by Cinephobia Releasing. That movie is also getting a Second Sight release. So if you're a Second Sight fanatic, you may want to wait and get the Second Sight release. And then next we have Dad and Stepdad, which is being put out by No Budge. And then we have Death Laughs Among Us, the complete works of John Schnall. That is VHS Hitfest. Then we have Dogs in Quicksand, being put out by Saturn's Core. Next we have Hippo, being put out by Memory. Next we have Hundreds of Beavers, putting out by Cartoona. Next is Kuso, being put out by Shudder. The Line is being put out by Utopia. Maybe It's Love, being put out by Connie, or Canny. And next you have No Home Movie, being put out by Icarus Films. Next you have Orders, being put out by our friends over at Canadian International Pictures. The Sacrifice Game is being put out by Shudder. And we have Starve Acre, being put out by Brainstorm Media. And then we have Sweet Sweet Lonely Girl, put out by Yellow Veil Pictures. So if you were counting all that, I think that's about 21 announcements. And then they've got some sales on some back catalog stuff as well that's currently going on. So let's get into it, man. Let's get into what I did get to see. Man, I am tired. So let me get into the best thing I saw, the best film, and that is the movie called Close Your Eyes. This is a really good film. I cannot stress that enough. Set in contemporary Madrid, an aging filmmaker named Miguel Garay is called upon to recount his memories of working on his final and still unfinished film, The Farewell Gaze. During its production, the lead actor and Miguel's close friend, Julio Arenas, disappeared without a trace, leaving in his wake a mystery that would haunt the lives of everyone associated with him. Miguel never directed another project, instead living a quiet life as a writer by the coast. He remained reluctant to unravel the mystery surrounding Julio until approached by an investigative television program reviving the case decades later. So what happens is the movie opens with one of the scenes from this unfinished film. And what you also and what you see is that it segues into this kind of unsolved mysteries news program type of thing. Many of you have seen this, where a woman says, and this actor then disappeared, and this is some of the final footage from his final work, and then it transitions over to this director character, Miguel Garay, and what you learn about not only not only the circumstances surrounding the making of that movie, because it's not really about that. That's kind of a MacGuffin of it all. What's also a MacGuffin is the mystery behind this missing actor. What actually happened to him? His body was never found. No traces of him were ever found. He just kind of disappeared, and there's just a mystery behind it. And what you get into is the backstory of this character, but also like him dealing with that, but dealing with his current life and how his past affects his present and all of those things. A lot of existentialism in here. It's a beautiful artistic work of a film with wonderful acting, and there's a powerful aesthetic of visual medium filmmaking in here. A lot of the acting and a lot of the emotion is portrayed just through acting. My goodness, it's such pure cinema in this movie. I was just completely taken away by it and engrossed, not only in the mystery of uncovering the story of this missing actor, but just about this character and what that did to him and what his life is now compared to what it was before. The regret, the melancholy, the happiness, the unhappiness, all of these things that make up what it's like to be human and to live a full life is in this movie. This movie gave me a lot of cinema paradiso vibes in it. That type of emotion. It's not doesn't quite have that magic, but it's got that vibe at times, and it's a really beautiful film. I love this movie. I don't typically go and pre-order a lot of these things, but I may have to pre-order this movie. It's down to about 524 copies as of this recording, and I may need to order it. Because it is that good. It's a movie that came out in 2023. And I think it just had a lot of its theatrical exhibitions this year. So people, I think, are discovering it perhaps for the first time. And good on them, because this movie is extraordinary. I loved it. I can't stress how great this movie is. Really kudos to Film Movement for putting this out and for getting it. Um, Unfortunately, nothing in the way of special features, only cast and crew interviews. That is it, which is a damn shame because it's such a great film. It's a long film. It's 169 minutes, but it's worth the journey. For me, it's worth the journey. Did it have to be that long? Perhaps not, but still, to me, I was so engrossed in it that I really didn't mind it being that long. So yeah, that is a Close Your Eyes. Extraordinary film. Extraordinary film. I can't recommend it enough. Then move on to some other stuff here. Quickly, Chris Claremont's X-Men. You can watch this on Tubi. It's a documentary about the legendary Chris Claremont, who was a comic book creator and writer. He's most primarily known for working on the X-Men for a very long time. For a very long time. Basically, he worked on the X-Men from the late 1970s all the way up until the early 90s. He is the reason why the X-Men are as popular as they are today in pop culture. He is the reason why the X-Men are the way they are. He is the godfather of the X-Men, in my opinion. And this documentary kind of celebrates his career on that. It really just focuses on his career, on working on the X-Men, working at Marvel, and stuff like that. The reason why I'm not too like over overselling it is because the documentary is just okay. It's kind of all over the place structurally as a documentary. You're just seeing like interview clips like strung together with with like a loose narrative kind of connecting them. It's not a great documentary. It's kind of a standard documentary, really. It's not really in depth, and I don't think it's anything that if you're a comic book fan, that's going to be revelatory to you in any way. But if you don't know anything about Chris Claremont, you don't know anything about his run on the X-Men or his work on the X-Men, it's definitely a good watch. Watch it on Tubi if you can. Next is a movie called The Coffee Table, which a lot of people are well aware of. And I had heard about it because Second Sight had announced that they were putting it out a while ago. And that movie, I think, is still coming out from them. Uh, Dark movie, harsh movie, tough to watch. Don't recommend it for people who have certain sensibilities for certain types of violence done to certain types of individuals. I'm being cagey about it because if I told you what it would be, I would spoil the whole movie. But heck, the cover of the slipcover kind of spoils the whole movie for you anyway. But yeah, it's a harsh movie. It's billed as a dark comedy, but in no way is it a comedy. It's very tense, very shrill, very to the point, very plays a lot like Alfred Hitchcock's Rope, feels very Hitchcockian in that regard. But even darker than that movie, if that makes sense. Damn, it's a rough movie to watch, really rough movie. So I can't recommend that to everyone. Let's see what we got here for special features. We have an audio commentary with director and co-writer Kay Casas, audio commentary with Eric Schultz, author of The Sweetest Taboo, an unapologetic guide to things. That's kind of spoils the movie. Interview with KK Casas as well. 91 minutes, a short thriller from 2022. Yeah, so next we got a movie called Dad and Stepdad from No Budge. Now, No Budge is a new partner label. There's a couple of new partner labels. You'll notice some names that you probably haven't heard before. This is one of them. This is good. This is a really good movie. Done on, you guessed it, no budget. So No Budge is a streaming platform and boutique label for young and emerging filmmakers focused on low budget cinema, DIY visions, alternative comedy, and more. We spotlight indie filmmakers working with limited resources and without major film industry connections. A leading curatorial voice since 2011, we have been featured by the New York Times, the New Yorker, the Guardian, Esquire, the Paris Review, and IndieWire. One of the best places to sample what's happening in low budget cinema worldwide, said the New York Times. So that's what you get with this label, is that they are basically about people who are making movies on shoestring budgets, probably local shoots with friends or associates or people that they know of from wherever, or people that they find. To be honest, I've done this, and probably maybe many of you have done this at home. I worked on a film with my friend called oh goodness, I forgot the name of the movie. Yeah, and I've worked on low budget films before, and this is what this felt like. It felt just like that. Yeah, it's a what an interesting movie. It's a movie also that I think is much better than it probably could be had the actors had been worse in it. For example, I'll give you the synopsis here and then we can discuss it a little bit. When Jim and Dave meet at a cabin upstate in an attempt to bond with their 13-year-old son, Branson. Excuse me. Let me start this over. When Jim and Dave meet at a cabin upstate in an attempt to bond with their 13-year-old son, Branson, tensions mount as differing parenting techniques come to the fore, along with trivial disagreements about everything from air mattresses to cigars to grilling hot dogs. So what you have here is a super low budget movie made in one location at a house in the middle of nowhere. And it's a father and a stepfather and a son. And what is interesting is that the son is portrayed by an adult, but he's 13 years old. So you can tell how, you can tell how this was done by like local actors or something like that. You could tell that it was done as like an experiment. It feels like a student film or something like that. It's somebody who's kind of trying out like improv skills. Like if you're in an improv troupe, or if you're in an improv class and someone says, "Hey, act like a teenager," and then you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna walk like this. I'm gonna talk like this. I'm gonna act like this." That's how this movie plays off as. But what makes the film so good is, although it's got kind of an amateurish vibe to it, the stuff they're getting into is good stuff. Like the themes are good. The differencing in parenting between a father and a stepfather, the difference in a relationship with a child between a father and a stepfather, or like you know what I'm saying, a parent and a step parent. How different that is. How wildly traumatic it could be on a child because they're kind of pulled in different ways, having to choose which one to follow, which one to listen to when they're telling you opposite things. And then you have, the mother who's in the equation as well. You've got someone who has a previous relationship, someone has a new relationship. How are those things going? How do those things affect the child? It's hitting on a lot of contemporary good stuff in this amateur rubric, in this amateur fashion, but it's really, really good. Really surprised. The movie is 79 minutes long, not a super long movie at all. Yeah, we got some special features here too. There's a blooper reel, deleted scenes, alternate takes, original dad and stepdad short, trailers. There's a commentary with director Tainan DeLong and producer Graham Mason. Commentary by main characters Jim and Dave. And there's a booklet here featuring essays too. So yeah, really cool. I'm glad that like indie films of that nature are getting a place to distribute their films on physical media because in doing this 10, 12 years ago when I was doing it, um we had to do that ourselves. We had to burn the movies on DVD-Rs or burn the movies on BDR discs and like hand them out at festivals or hand them out at screenings at local coffee shops and or things like that. Or we had to put it on YouTube or put it on Vimeo. And that's the way we got our movie out there. We didn't really have that pipeline, at least not here, where I live. So we had to do all that ourselves. Yeah, it's so the movie I worked on is actually available on YouTube. I just completely blanking on the name. Is it called The Same as It Ever Was? I think that was the name of the original screenplay. It was called The Same as It Ever Was, and it was like a 26-minute short film or so. Um, yeah, it wasn't called No Exit. That was the name of the band in the movie. I think they were called No Exit. Oh my goodness. I wish I could remember. Because it's been about a dozen years. Um, yeah, but oh man, I should remember it and post it and maybe in the film group on YouTube on Facebook or something. So, but let me get back to what I was talking about. If I remember it, I'll just jump in and talk about it. So, some other movies here that I want to talk about before we exit here on Chasing Labels number 154. Um, No Home Movie put out by Icarus Films. This is the last film put out by Chantal Akerman. Chantal Akerman, who was the great French filmmaker, um, who passed away in 2015, right before this movie, I think, premiered. Um, Unfortunately, I believe she passed away from suicide, which is always very tragic and very sad. And this is a movie that's a documentary about her relationship with her mother, who had recently passed away as well. I believe she had passed away about a year before this movie came out, and I think she passed away very soon after Chantal Akerman had completed work on this movie. And it is a documentary about her relationship with her mother, who she was very close with. And that's the universal truth of this film, is if you are very close to a parent or to a parent figure, this movie I think will resonate with you. And it's a documentary, but it's a documentary done in the rawest form, in the most simplest forms, in the most purest forms, really, where it's just a camera set up and people are just doing stuff in front of it. Things as simple as setting it up in a camera and two people eating dinner together. That's it. You know what I mean? There's no real structure to it or anything like that. You're just kind of seeing Chantal Ackerman talk with her mother about different things. Talk to her mother about her past being in a concentration camp during the Holocaust. She was in Auschwitz. and talking about that and talking about her life before that and how that all started and how she ended up there. And you get moments of that, but you also get other moments of lightness where Chantal Ackerman's mom is calling her over Skype and she doesn't quite know how to use Skype. You know what I mean? So it's a commentary on, elderly people and the changing of technology. But it's a very intimate portrait of this relationship between these two people who obviously were very close to one another. So it'll resonate with you on that level. And Chantal Ackerman was a master, was an absolute master filmmaker, and uh, she's been an influence on many filmmakers that many of us know of today. I need to get more of her work in my collection. I think we recently talked heavily about the BFI set of her work that's coming out. We talked about the Criterion collection, Criterion putting out a collection of her works on Blu-ray in the Chantal Ackerman box set. I wish they would put out a second one of those because there's plenty more Chantal Ackerman that is not in that box set. But yeah, a lot of her work can be found to stream on the Criterion channel. But yeah, this is a beautiful, beautiful work, beautiful film, beautiful documentary. We've got some special features here. Bonus documentary, I Don't Belong Anywhere. The cinema of Chantal Ackerman explores some of the Belgian filmmaker's 40 plus films from Brussels to Tel Aviv, from Paris to New York. It charts the sites of her um, peregrinations and experimental filmmaker and nomad Chantal Ackerman shared with Marianne Lambert. Marianne Lambert, her cinematic trajectory, one that never ceased to interrogate the meaning of her existence. And with her editor and longtime collaborator, Claire Atherton, she examines the origins of her film language and aesthetic stance. This runs 67 minutes long. This bonus documentary. So you get two documentaries here. One is 115 minutes long, which is No Home Movie, and then you get the second one here called I Don't Belong Anywhere, the cinema of Chantal Ackerman. This is a nice release, really nice release if you're a big Chantal Ackerman fan. I do have to, of course, plug Canadian International Pictures, their new movie Orders, their new release of the movie Orders. I want to make sure to plug them because they do such great stuff. They've been very nice over here to us here at Chasing Labels. It's a new release with tons of special features. My goodness. So a sophomore narrative feature from master cinematographer and filmmaker Micheaux Brault. This unflinching prison drama explores the most egregious injustices perpetrated during the historic October crisis. Drawn from extensive testimonials and told in the cinema direct language, Brault helped pioneer. Orders is a masterpiece of Quebecois cinema that delivers a vision no less infuriating and impactful half a century after it won Best Director at the Cannes Film Festival. Directed by Michael Brault. 108 minutes long, came out in 1974. Tons of special features here. This looks like a good one. This looks like a really good release. I may have to jump on this really soon. There's about 517 left in stock, so get yours while you can. Let's see. Yellow Veil Pictures putting out a movie called Sweet Lonely Girl, or Sweet Sweet Lonely Girl. This is a very laid back type of film. So soon after moving in with her aging aunt Dora, Adele meets Beth, seductive and mysterious, who tests the limits of Adele's moral ground and sends her spiraling down a psychological, unstable, and phantasmagoric path. Yes, phantasmagoric. What a word. What a word. This film was directed by A.D. Calvo, runs 76 minutes long, came out in 2016. Very like laid back type of movie where you're just following this young girl as she is hired to take care of her aunt, her estranged aunt, who has become agoraphobic, like heavily agoraphobic. She can't leave her bedroom. That's how agoraphobic she has become. And she's basically hired to bring her aunt her meals and her medications, and that's about it. And she's in a town she doesn't know, with people she doesn't know. It's like a small town, and I think it takes place at early 80s, somewhere around there. Feels like a New England town, to be quite honest. But anywho, so she meets this young woman, this other woman who is kind of the complete opposite of her, dresses complete opposite of her, acts complete opposite of her, and they end up striking up a relationship. And it ends up kind of sending her down a different path of like acting out, being more rebellious, being more open, doing more things that she would not do before, stuff like that. And it has a little bit of consequences along with it. You'll see if you see the movie, but it's a very laid back type of movie. Um, Good movie though. I actually rather liked it. So let me look at the next film that I want to discuss. Uh, um, oh, Hundreds of Beavers. This is a brand new movie, actually. This movie came out this year, 2024. And what a movie. A drunken Applejack salesman must go from zero to hero and become North America's greatest fur trapper by defeating hundreds of beavers. That's what this movie is about, but it's told in a way that is so unique and so different. It's told in a way that you would see a Buster Keaton film told, a Charlie Chaplin film told, a Harold Lloyd film told. It's told like like an action, um, like a weird action silent film. That's how the movie is portrayed, and it's so unique and so different. I like the movie a lot. It's not for everyone. I think you're gonna have to be get really used to the way the film is told stylistically in order for you to get into it. But great special effects in it. The cool special effects, the way they do it, and the way they do the whole movie and whatnot. But it is a 2 disc Blu-ray release. Play movie with visual effects breakdown, trapline chapter menu, 3 audio commentaries. There's a sober commentary, a drunk commentary, a trash documentary. They're all moderated. And then you have deleted scenes, Gene Kayak and his Acme Applejack lyric video, Blink, a high school short film by Mike Cheslick, Bob Barilto sound design breakdowns. Yeah, Mike Cheslick is the director here. I like this movie. This movie was making the rounds at I think film festivals this year, and people really kind of dug it. Um, there's a Movies That Made Me with Joe Dante and Josh Olson interview with Mike and Ryland. That's from April 7th of 2024. So that's really cool. And then you got Movie Mindset interview with Mike Cheslick from May 27th, 2024. And then you got WMSC 90.3 Montclair State University radio interview with Ryland Twos from June 1st of 2024. So that's really cool. So that is Hundreds of Beavers. I like it. It's from this year. It's unique. Let's see what else we've got here. So let's go with Carnage for Christmas. So Carnage for Christmas is directed by Alice Mal McKay, and I think it's their first film. It's Christmas, so come with us on a blood-soaked sleigh ride to the conservative hometown of trans true crime podcaster Lola. Worried about the town's reaction to her transition, Lola is ready to take on anyone this holiday season. However, she didn't expect that person to be a Santa masked killer, paying grisly homage to the town's own haunted legend, the Toymaker. Now, Lola, who has her own connection to the original Toymaker murders, must put an end to these gruesome murders. So this movie plays like a Nancy Drew, Veronica Mars type mystery, and it's really great in that regard. It's a low budgeted film, so you'll definitely notice that. It's actually edited by Vera Drew. Vera Drew, who just directed the the Joker movie. Hold on, let me actually get the actual title. And I believe it's not the first time that the People's Joker. That's the movie that they directed. They directed the People's Joker, and they edited this film as well. I think it was the follow up that they did was editing this movie. So it's a very interesting film. So you got this Nancy Drew type vibe, Veronica Mars type vibe, where Lola, who is a true crime podcaster, goes back to her hometown, and uh, she's not only confronted with the transphobia of her conservative. She's the one that's got to be like play detective and go on the trail and figure it out because the local police may or may not be involved with it as well. Um, It's an interesting kind of movie. It plays a lot like a pilot for a TV series. Like this would be a cool TV series, or this would be a cool movie series of where, Lola has to um go around and solve these crimes. It plays a lot like that Natasha Lyonne series that's currently going on, the one that Ryan Johnson does over on Peacock. It plays a lot like that, but just as a movie, as like an hour and a half movie. What's the one that Natasha Lyonne does? Poker Face. It plays a lot like that. Um, yeah, so I really enjoyed this a lot. Let's see what we have for special features. So we've got just Satanic Panic full feature, a conversation with actor Jordan Gonzalez and director Alice Mal McKay. Oh, that's it. Check out the trailer for it if you haven't already. And this is being put out by Darkstar. So I think we're pretty close to the end here. Yeah, because I didn't get to see a lot of the other films. Let's see where we are time wise. Yeah, we're about 3 hours. We're over 3 hours in, so we will probably cut it off here. So this has been, Chasing Labels episode number or spine number 154. This will be the last episode of the calendar year. I will be back in June, probably the first Monday in January. I will be back in January, first Monday in January, to resume Chasing Labels episodes. But Steven and I will return here next week on Monday, the 19th. No, not the 19th. On Monday, the 16th, for an episode of the Unwatched Pile, where we will be picking something off of our shelf that we have not seen, and after watching it, we will be pairing it with the another movie we have in our collections. So please tune in for that. Steven and I will also be getting together once again to do our favorite releases of the year list, the year being 2024. And then, like I said, Chasing Labels will be back in the new year. And perhaps there will be some things in between then and now. Who really knows here on Chasing Labels? We're kind of just making this up as we go along. That's the Indiana Jones model from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that is kind of how I live my life for the most part. So, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. You can, of course, watch it here on YouTube, or you can listen to the audio files, the audio part over on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Spotify. Or whatever places podcasts can be found. We are literally everywhere. So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Whatever you do, thank you all for the support. And please keep on watching those movies because I know I will.